3. I'm just the reason why I want you brothers I'm just playing, fam. I'm just playing, fam. I'm not playing, but I am. The reason why I want my brothers that have been the detractors of the Moorish Science Temple of America theology, philosophy, they can call it dogma or way of life, whatever. I hope that you watch this. If you don't watch it now, I pray that you watch this soon. Not only because of what we're talking about today can help you learn something, but just so you can hear this small piece. This weekend, we had the distinguished Dana Reynolds Manichi, and people know her as Dana Manichi. Why is that so important? She is the renowned historian, researcher as it relates to African Asiatic people. If you don't know who she is, I want you to go to her blog, Afro-Asiatic Blog Spot. I want you to go to her blog, Afro-Asiatic Blog Spot. Her name is Dana Manichi. Or type in your browser, Dana Reynolds Manichi. Why is she so important? Because when we read our Moorish Quran, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, we always stood on and stand on that the Moors are descendants of the ancient Canaanites, whom inhabited northwestern and southwestern shores of Africa. Moors are descendants of the ancient Canaanite who migrated from one land to another, and another land is what we call Africa. Well, today we have a researcher. We have a researcher that every college that dibble-dabs or think they have the top-notch research is reaching for her research for the history of man as it relates the development and upward mobility to from where we come from. And her research verifies everything that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said in our Quran about Moors descendants of the ancient Canaanites. Now, what I'm saying is this: she's not a Moorish American. So when I upload the video, remember context. She's using terminologies like black. She's using terminology like black Moors. She's using these terminologies. She's not a Moorish American by proclamation or proclaiming. She is just doing the research and she's drawing from what she finds. So if it says that the people in the Sudan or the people in Iraq was black from the research, she's using the term black. She's just drawing her research. However, the sister is showing the upward mobility of man as man raised up out of the land of Canaan. And I'm telling you, if you are a true scholar, you will try to research the researcher to either prove it wrong or even to validate it. But I'm going to tell you something about this sister. The sister have researched the researcher. She have researched her own work 2 times over, 3 times over. The sister spits it like it's second nature. You know, like I spit them bars, you know. She talks it as if it's second nature, and she has a PowerPoint with it. But with that being said, let's get into the show. That's why I say I hope y'all watch this, because y'all going to learn something. Y'all going to learn something. All of this talking about man this and man that, man this and man that. I'm telling y'all going to learn something when I put this video up. And I'm going to try my best to put it up this week. And I want y'all to spread the word. And when I put it up, I want y'all to share it. This is not corner scholarship. I repeat, this is not corner scholarship. This is scholarship that is with the best of them. I'm talking about whether it be Berkeley, whether it be Yale, whether it be Harvard, whether it be Morgan State, whether it be Howard, whatever. This is the type of research and the type of educator, a real scholar. And when I say real scholar, she worked for her scholarship. She just didn't read a book and say she was a scholar. She traveled the world for her scholarship. Her scholarship was tested against other real scholars and continue to be tested against other real scholars' findings. So with that being said, let's get into the show. All right, family, let's get into the show due to the fact that we want to get in and get out because my brother's got something to say. My brother's got something to say. And what my brother's got something to say is what is going on where people have gotten to the point where they try to manipulate or try to adulterate the teachings for their own means. Because this is what is going on. Not only do it go on in the Moorish Science Temple of America, it goes on straight across the map. But what we're talking about right now is the Dred Scott decision of 1857. Are you a slave according to that decision, or are you a citizen? And I want my brother, normally I don't do this, and we don't name names and we don't pop shop, but I want my brothers to explain how this came about, because one ideal versus another ideal. One perception is up against another perception. And so some people perceive one thing, another perceive another. So with that, I want to bring my brother Grimion Hill into the chat. And brother, introduce yourself. Come on in the chat. Islam, my brother.
Islam, Sheikh. Praise Almighty God, Allah. I'm with you. This is brother Zachary Grimion Hill. Down here in the boot, just representing and try to do the best I can to live the best life that I could possibly live. And with that, I say peace.
Peace. And I got my other brother from the rest of one mother, brother Ali Bey. Come on in, my brother Ali Bey.
Islam, bro. What's going on?
Islam, brother. How you doing, my brother? Where you from? Who are you, my brother?
This is Ali Bey calling in here from Harlem. I'm in Harlem, New York. And just wanted to say peace to you and peace to brother Grimion L. Everybody listening, peace.
Peace. Ali Bey, real quick. Do they still do the Harlem Shake in Harlem, man? I used to like that.
That's funny. You know what, man? Certain people young people may do it, man, but you don't really see that much anymore. They got a lot of new dances that they're doing, man.
Well, I'm telling you, I might have to come up there in December to see my brother Shanetta, but I want to see the new dance. I used to like that old Harlem Shake and that old soup and the soda demonstration. You know, I used to like it. Wait, I got sidetracked. I got sidetracked. You know that soup and the soda demonstration? I mean, with the soda on the side? Yeah, I like that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, family, this is what we're going to do. Brother Grimion, give me the backdrop of how we get here. I know it was something going on Facebook where it seemed to be some misconception about the Dred Scott decision. I thought we solved that years ago, but obviously we didn't. Brother, can you give me the backdrop? And I would love for Ali Bey to chime in also. Listen, family, this is not personal. We only want the truth. If the person, we're not calling names, we're looking at the ideal, not the individual. If the person was involved in this conversation, you actually can let me know in the chat, inbox one of the brothers, Ali Bey or Grimion Hill, right now, if you see this up, and hopefully Grimion Hill can share it to you in your inbox. And you can call in, brother, and we can have a conversation. But we must be respectful. We must not use no foul language because we're trying to learn, and children all around the world will one day see this. With that being said, Grimion Hill, how did this all come about?
Islam, more actually, more I'm gonna put it on you. No, you know, and basically more, you know, from the last, you know, couple of shows that we had where, you know, we kind of been, you know, debunking myths. You know, I basically you know, have been contemplating on, you know, other myths and misinformation that is being taught in the Moorish community, you know, not just outside of the Moorish Science Temple of America, but inside the Moorish Science Temple of America. And it's time to really address these things because, you know, and not to be emotional or anything like that, but you know, a lot of well-rounded scholars, um if a lot of these Moorish Americans are in and outside the temple were truly challenged on a lot of these things by people who know law, like the prophet said, the people who know law, you know, a lot of them would fall flat on their face, you know, or they would cower down and then, you know, still teach the same thing because it benefits them emotionally or financially. So, you know, in dealing with the Dred Scott case, you know, it is, you know, my estimation, the estimation of brother Ali Bey and our research, you know, brother Way L been on this too, you know, but you know, with that being said, you know, a lot of Moors, the context of this show is a lot of Moors try to use the Dred Scott case or the Dred Scott decision to verify the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali in regards to his teachings in regard to the racial classification of people of African descent in America called Negroes, colored folks, and black people. And what me and Ali Bey done in our research is that we found, you know, basically, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. You know, Moors try to use the Justice Taney's decision to say that a Negro, if you will, is today, even today, not a citizen of the United States, or an Asiatic, if you will, is not a citizen or a proper citizen of the United States. And is our estimation based upon our research that there's nothing that can be further from the truth in regard to the.
Uh-oh. I think the brother dropped off.
Oh man. Oh man. We gonna hold him down though. We gonna hold him down. Brother Ali Bey, I want you to continue to set the backdrop. Right. And hopefully he can pick up where he let off. But according to you, how did this conversation even come about? I know it was some conversation in a Facebook chat or something. How did this happen?
Yeah, there's been a lot of conversation lately about the Dred Scott case. And if you watch what usually happens around the time of general elections, this always picks up steam. This particular conversation always picks up steam somewhere around the time of the general elections, right? So along with the Dred Scott case, you'll get a lot of other conspiracy theories as to why so-called black people are not citizens of the United States. But the Dred Scott case is one of the main ones that, you know, these people anchor their arguments with. You know, the fact that Justice Taney, who delivered the majority opinion of the case in 1857, in the majority opinion, he states that Africans and their descendants who were imported for the purposes of slave labor could not have been considered citizens, and that the founding fathers, when they created the founding documents, could not have been referring to Africans and their descendants as it pertained to the issue of citizenship of the United States. So this basically was his position, but it was his position based on the fact that Southerners, the Supreme Court was under pressure to offer a judicial resolution to the slavery issue. All right. So in denying Dred Scott his freedom, the court made one of the most controversial decisions that it has ever made. And to this day, particular case and the opinions that came out of that case, as it pertained to the Missouri Compromise, as it pertained to the citizenship of an entire quote unquote race of people, is regarded as one of the worst decisions that has ever come out of the Supreme Court by other Supreme Court justices, that by many people in the legal profession is just deemed as one of the worst decisions, because in that particular case, what happened was the Confederates who sat on the bench, there was at least 5 of them. 5 of these Supreme Court justices were actual from the Confederate states. 5 of them were. Okay, and so the 2 that dissented were from non-slaveholding states. You understand what I'm saying? So they were outnumbered 7-2. You know, but what they did was they used basically the Supreme Court to advance this ideology of white supremacy
So
on behalf of the slaveholders. And what we have nowadays is people who have basically what I call them, and you know, Brother Sharif Bey and I have talked about this, and even Brother Wayel, we've talked about this. We call these people in the Moorish movement the people who have checked out of society for the most part. They have basically given up.
So my brother, what is the opposing argument, if you may?
The opposing argument, well, we would have to go into the 2 dissenting opinions, one from Justice Curtis, if that's what you're talking about. Go ahead, bro.
I'm talking about individuals that go against the norm of what we're talking about the Dred Scott decision. What was the argument about online as it relates to our people?
Their argument is that so-called Negroes, blacks, and coloreds cannot be citizens of the United States because the racist Justice Taney and the rest of the Confederates on that bench said so.
Oh, so they saying regardless, you could never be a citizen. Is that what you get?
Well, in one instance, they're talking about people who are Negroes, blacks, and colors, but then in another instance, they're even referring to Moorish Americans, which is a really strange thing, because if you think about it, on one hand, it almost seems as if they're trying to say that proclaiming your nationality brings you into citizenship. But at the same time, when you start talking about citizenship as a Moorish American, they start telling you that you can't be a citizen because of the Dred Scott case and this and that and the other. So at the same time, even though they're pretending that it only applies to people who don't have a nationality and go by the Negro, black, and colored, as soon as a Moorish American starts talking about being a citizen of the United States, they then try to apply that same logic to Moorish Americans. Like, Moorish Americans can't be citizens of the United States. What makes them citizens? The Dred Scott case says X, Y, and Z. So in actuality, they don't think that any person with melanin, of dark skin, of African descent, Aboriginal, dark skinned people, whatever it is, they don't think anybody other than European Christians can be citizens of the United States. So really, that's what they're saying.
Oh, okay. I see what you said. Regardless of your consciousness, of your nationality or indigenous status or whatever status that you choose to cling to, that the Constitution says make you free, born here, whatever the case may be, regardless, you can never be a citizen, is their argument, right?
That's what it ends up becoming. It starts out as an argument against people who claim the identity of black and formerly Negro and colored people, and then they even now are throwing in African American. I don't know where they got that from, but they throw in African American as well. I've never seen the prophet mention anything about African Americans, but they include African Americans because obviously they've heard someone else saying it. The problem is it transfers over to Moorish Americans and Moors as well. So it's as soon as a Moorish American or a Moor starts talking about being a citizen of the United States, they start telling these people, yo, Moorish Americans can't be citizens of the United States because the United States is a corporation, because the Dred Scott case says that you're some kind of a black slave. You understand what I'm saying? It's all kinds of mumbo jumbo.
That sounds like a new argument. I never heard that argument until recently.
Bro, it's like a compounded a situation, and the further you go with them, the more compounded the arguments become. They start packing things on top of things on top of things. They go from the Dred Scott case to the fact that the United States is a corporation. Title the 28 one of them from the United States codes. They start using this to show the federal corporation. It's all kinds of stuff.
So brother, let me ask you a question. Are these proclaimed Moors, or are these detractors? Who is saying this?
These detractors are mostly proclaimed Moors, and then you have other quote unquote blacks who have clung to these sovereign citizen ideologies, who are not even proclaimed Moors. You'll get Hebrew Israelites saying some of this stuff now. You get people in the so-called conscious community, who are repeating these same erroneous, fallacious claims. It's just like it becomes pervasive amongst people, particularly people who are claiming to be conscious. They're the ones who are having the most trouble understanding the concept of citizenship, more so than anybody else. It's the so-called conscious people.
Okay. Our brother Grimback. Oh, brother Grimback, are you still had that thought? Or you want to keep it moving? How you feel, my brother?
Oh, Islam, I couldn't hear what brother Ali Bey said. He probably covered, most of what I was saying. But to make a long story short, so we can keep moving on. In respect to Moorish Americans, Moorish Americans are incorrectly applying and listen to what I'm saying, family. Moorish Americans are misapplying the Dred Scott case when it comes to dealing with citizenship of people of African descent, and they try to use that racist slave master Justice Taney's decision to basically justify the teachings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, when it's actually the reverse. So that we can just keep it moving from there.
I just want to touch on this for a second. Hit your mic for 1 second. Yeah, I just want to touch on this for a second so I can give clarification for those who just came into the chat. What we're talking about is the Dred Scott decision of 1857. Are you a slave or are you a citizen? According to an argument or a conversation, I'm using argument. It doesn't mean drag down, beat down, nothing. It's an argument of intellect, argument of intelligence, and we're trying to just get to the truth here. According to a conversation that my brothers had in the chat earlier this week, and the reason why we're doing this because we're having a reemergence of new, and I'm sorry, I apologize. We have a reemergence of new pseudo.
Every election cycle, brother, the same argument resurfaces. Just watch it. Watch the pattern. Every single general election that comes around, the same exact argument resurfaces.
You know what amazes me, brothers, and y'all know I talk about this all the time. When brothers are using this to say that regardless you are still a slave, that's because they want to be still a slave, sound like it. When our prophet clearly says that's the thing necessary to become better citizens. Yet we have people with L's and B's saying regardless, you cannot be a citizen. How backward is that?
Absolutely backwards, sir.
How backwards is that? The prophet over Drew Ali said, I am teaching my people the things so they can become better citizens.
That's all they have to do is read the nationality card from the temple. It says, I am a citizen of the USA.
The U.S.A. Why don't we just come together first?
Look. The USA does not stand for Unity, Salvation, Allah. It doesn't have any other signification outside of the United States of America. It is a short form for the United States of America, just like USA without the dots, just like US or U.S. It all refers to the states, the 50 states that are united by and under the Constitution, unless a specific law says that it's referring to something else. If the law says it's referring to something else, a particular law, then that's what it may be referring to. But in general, that means the 50 states united by and under the Constitution. That's what the United States of America stands for. That's what the USA stands for. That's what U.S.A.U.S.A, all of that.
Right. And the thing about it, to verify what the brother is saying, that's all you have to do is read the Moorish guide, and read the editorials, and it will basically tell you that Noble Drew Ali is not talking about any arcane or hidden secret republic with some secret constitution. He's talking about this republic with this constitution, and he said that the Constitution of the United States of America was one of the greatest documents ever written. You know, everything he's talking about in the Moorish leaders' historical message to America in the editorial is talking about the United States of America.
So I think this platform, man, Moorish World is set to try to clear up some of this nonsense, and I'm gonna call it nonsense, because if the Prophet Noble Drew Ali is flying the American flag, if the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said you must proclaim your nationality, become a part and parcel of this said government, if the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said he'll teach his people the things necessary to become better citizens, if the Prophet Noble Drew Ali keeps talking all of this talk to make you a better citizen, a citizen, to connect you with the families of nations, all of this sort of talk, if you have an L or Bay on your name and you don't believe it, won't you just turn in your fast? See, swearing your button, turn in your fast and return back to the state where the prophet found you. Because the prophet clearly said he is teaching us the things necessary to become better citizens. And he's flying the American flag. So you might say, well, he's talking about citizens of our government. Well, this is our government. If we only know, the prophet said, is quoted as saying, or reported as saying, that the European are 1,000,000 miles away from home. You are home. This is your.
Right. Exactly, Moore. And if I can interject real quick, you know, really, you know, and this thought, you know, just really come to my mind just now, you know, or as you were talking, and this particular topic in itself, you know, for Moorish Americans is really also tied into the success, if you will, of Operation Proclamation by Ali's men. And the reason that I say that, brother man, is because there's a group, you know, for Operation Proclamation is not just targeted at Moorish Americans. It's targeted at any registered voter or anyone eligible to register to vote to begin to create change in our communities, locally, statewide, and nationally. And to talk about this thing is that they have Moors that are out there teaching that the votes of our people, whether they are in the Moorish Science Temple or not, is not valid because of the Dred Scott case. And I'm going to use brother you know, Ali Bey example. If the vote of Asiatics in that regard is no good because of the 1857 Dred Scott case, then number one, why do they chase you for your vote? That's number one. Because if you were a Negro with no rights that a quote unquote white man was bound to respect, then why do everybody chase you for this sacred vote? Because if your vote didn't count, then they would have no need to court you for that vote. It's just simple logic.
Hey, brother, let me get this. The brother in the chat said, government, U.S. is not a government. Law defines states government. And then the brother comes back and say, government is not for profit. Let me explain something, man.
That's insanity, boy. That's insanity.
Government manages money. Government accumulates money from the people and they manage it. That's a part of the functionality of government.
Sure is.
People keep talking about government is not for profit. What are you talking about? Government accumulates the money from the citizens, non-citizens alike, all the contributors, and they manage it.
And then the government
we can get to the argument of mismanagement. They used it for that's another argument. That's a whole nother argument.
Right.
But the government accumulate the resources, whether in the ground or above the ground, and they manage it for the people. We can speak about corrupt government on another show. So say that government is not for profit, or government is for whatever. Government is for profit, but the profit is supposed to support the people.
You know what that is, bro?
Take your place in the affairs of men so you can have a hand in the pot. And
more, let me say real quick, that's what the prophet, I'm sorry, brother, that's what the prophet said. The prophet said the wealth of all the government belongs to his people. You know, paraphrasing what he said.
And then the brother still going in. Management is not profit. It is profit. If the
let me say something
doesn't grow, growth means profit. I run a business. If I don't profit every year, I'm not going to be in business. Period.
Can I speak to that?
Because my profit must grow with the state of inflation, with the needs. People are coming in the country, you know, so the profit must grow with the man. And come on, brother, let's go. You have to be in business to understand this.
It is business. It is business. It's the business of government. And the bottom line is the people who are in government are actually workers, right? They're workers. And a worker is worthy of his hire. He's supposed to be paid and all of that. So some of the money goes towards resources for the people and improving the quality of life of the citizens, part of that money has to go towards paying the salaries of all of these workers, whether that's sanitation workers, whether that's, you know, people who are working on your highways, whether that are toll takers, you know, at your bridges and your tunnels. You know what I'm saying? You know, that goes for a lot of different things. So when you say it's not for profit, you have to understand what you're talking about. It's not the same as McDonald's. Like they keep trying to equate this thing to the same thing as McDonald's or Walmart or something like that. And you know, that's something else they got from sovereign citizens, because that's what the sovereign citizens started saying, that, oh, the United States government is the same as any other for-profit corporation like McDonald's and Walmart. So and they're saying that because they're trying to put into these people's minds that they have the option of just saying, you know what, I don't want to have anything to do with this Walmart corporation, and the laws and the bylaws of this Walmart or McDonald's corporation applies to its workers. It doesn't apply to me. That's not what the United States government is. That is not what the state governments are.
See, this is the thing.
Corporation.
Buffalo Ali Bey, absolutely. And this is the thing. Because we don't participate in politics and government, we don't know the functionality of it. We're on the outside talking about the functionality of government. We want to teach government and never took a class, never took a course, we read a few books, online things, chopped it up with a few people, and then go talk about the functionality of government. But if you only knew that the government is yours, and if you get inside of it and become the power, as we say in Ali's Men, you control the money. And then you do what you're supposed to do with the money. And I would say that government does do things on the level as other corporations, because guess what? All of these Virgin Islands, they get new territories, they add new stuff to it. You know how they do that? That is called building.
That's right.
That is called building. So in a sense of business, That's how business grow, government grows, empires grow, empires fall. I mean, first
That's
you
how the wealth of a nation is accumulated. The wealth of a
yes,
nation
yes,
is
yes, yes,
accumulated. Tell them to
absolutely.
read the book Wealth of a Nation. Like they think that, you know, oh, it's not for profit. You think that the wealth of a nation is not supposed to grow. You think that the people are not supposed to become
Hey,
prosperous and like,
no,
what are you
it's for
talking
profit.
about?
Sure, but the problem is that the mismanagement and the abuse makes it seem so corrupt.
Right.
You know, but government is really not corrupt. The people who managing the money are corrupt. So now you have to become the power and manage the money accordingly.
That's right.
Right.
It's holding people accountable.
That's it.
Yeah, so sorry, Ali Bey, and that's the thing, because you know I was having a discussion with a brother here in New Orleans, you know, on Facebook in that regard, right? And really, man, you know, no disrespect, but it's really like punctified, because you know, number one, like what you were saying, basically we let the corrupt people take over the government and do wrong with the resources, right?
Exactly.
And then we have a key voice to overturn that and put whoever we want in the office that'll do right. But then we show up in lackluster numbers, right? We show up in lackluster numbers, and then we believe that the system is unbeatable.
Because that this is what happens. We such a beggar people that we hoping the system do something for us. That's what it is. The government is corrupt. The government is stealing from the people. When all you got to do is take your place in the affairs of men, organize with a brother like me, if you in Baltimore, and take it back. That's it. And
right. And let me say this more, and see how these people talk about how presidents are selected, not elected, or your vote don't count, or it's hopeless to do this. You don't see them Europeans talking about that more. The Europeans, they showing up in high numbers because they know that they can make the change, but we get spooky. And that's basically where the whole Dred Scott decision comes in at. You know, we basically like the little mice on the Bugs Bunny cartoon talking about "I told you so." You know, sitting on the sideline. So if we get back into the Dred Scott decision, I would like you know, if it's okay with you, brother Ali Bey and brother Taharka, I would like you to address the substance of the Dred Scott case and what was decided in all of the history in that regard. And I can come behind you, and then we can get into the truth of how the Moors are tied into this system that was basically revealed not only by the dissenting opinions of the Dred Scott case that talked about how the Moors controlled the government, but also by Abraham Lincoln himself and Abraham Lincoln's words on the implications of the Dred Scott decision. You know, and this is going to debunk a lot of people in and out of the temple that try to use the Dred Scott case to prove Moorish science.
So come on, brother, let's roll. Talk about it, brother Ali Bey.
Okay, well, it's common knowledge. The Supreme Court case of Scott versus Sandford was issued on March 6, 1857. Just giving a little background. The majority opinion was delivered by a man named Chief Justice Roger Taney. His name is actually pronounced Taney. Most people say Taney, but it's actually pronounced Taney. Roger Taney, and in his opinion, he declared that slaves were not citizens of the United States and could not sue, did not have standing to sue in the federal courts. In addition to this decision, he also declared that the Missouri Compromise was unconstitutional and that Congress did not have the authority to prohibit slavery in the territories. However, the opinions or the decisions of the Dred Scott case was overturned by the 13th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution. Now, just to to bring in a piece that brother Sharif Bey always brings up, is the actual decision in the case. The final decision in the case was dismissed due to lack of jurisdiction. This was the actual final outcome, was that they dismissed for a lack of jurisdiction and then sent it back to a lower court and suggested that the lower court also dismissed for lack of jurisdiction because it was a lower federal court. And his thing is, you know, Justice Taney and the other racists on the courts, their thing was that this man did not have standing to sue in federal courts. So they were trying to push it all the way back down to the lower court, the lowest court where it first went, so that whatever ruling was there would stand, okay? And which basically said that this man had no rights. And so in terms of some more background, you got to understand that there was an issue of slavery between the North and the South, right? And this case itself was one of the catalysts that led up to what eventually turned out to be the Civil War. It was just one in a succession of events that turned into what became ultimately the Civil War, the war between the northern states and the southern states that ultimately seceded from the Union. So the court was under pressure to offer a judicial resolution to the slavery issue. All right. And so this is what came of it. These opinions about Africans and descendants of Africans and blah, 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 all of this racist rhetoric, none of which was based in law, none of which was based in actual historical facts. These were all opinions and assumptions of the racists who occupied the court at that time and used the court to advance their ideology of white supremacy and their ideology of that they had the God-given right to enslave the people that they knew as Canaanites. This is what they actually said in their secession documents. Okay, the president of the Confederacy, Jefferson Davis, even mentions the fact that these Canaanites were supposed to be their slaves. Okay, so that's some of the background there. But what we can do is we can talk about the dissenting opinions, right? And the reason why the dissenting opinions are very, very important. I'm gonna go to first the dissenting opinion of Justice McLean, because you had two justices who dissented. One was Justice McLean, and the other was Justice Benjamin Curtis, John McLean and Benjamin Curtis. Here's what John McLean did. John McLean's dissent, he refuted Taney's decision point by point. He cited an impressive array of state and federal precedents. McLean also wrote that slavery existed only where sanctioned by positive law. Now, here's the problem with the fact of slavery existing only by positive law. If you understand what positive law is, you understand that in this case, they're talking about municipal law, because you're talking about the laws of the localities. These weren't necessarily even state laws all of the time. And if they were laws in the colonies, you're talking about municipal laws, right? So they're talking about positive law in the form of municipal law. The problem is that municipal law was not rooted in anything constitutional. It wasn't rooted in anything in the common law. Because when you go back even into the common law, the case of there's a common law case, a case that took place in Britain that dealt with the issue of slavery and whether or not slavery was supported by the common law of Britain, where this slaveholder took an African slave into Britain with him. And once they got there, the slave petitioned for his freedom. And the court in Britain held that, or decided that slavery was not supported by the common law of Britain or Wales. And so, being that these colonies were operating off of the British common law, that positive law that they enacted in those southern slaveholding states was not based in common law. It was not based in constitutional law. It wasn't based in anything. In fact, it was actually contrary to the principles embedded in the founding documents, one being that all men were created free and equal, and the other being that all men had the right to life, liberty in the pursuit of happiness. So those laws were actually in contradiction. Those slave laws were in contradiction to the principles embedded in all of the founding documents. And this was the problem and why they were butting heads. There was a lot of moral debates that took place between Southerners and Northerners about the institution of chattel slavery. Okay, and there was some, once the Dred Scott case came to a close, it caused some very strong reactions. The fervor was crazy. It caused like a wave of indignation that swept through the North. You had editorial comments from Northern newspapers that immediately denounced the decision as wicked, detestable, and cowardly. You had individual clergymen who sermonized on the evils of a decision that dismissed an entire race as inferior. You know, you had Northerners who were not even abolitionists or even necessarily anti-slavery who protested the pro-Southern bias of the decision. And, you know, because they felt that it allowed virtually unchecked the spread of slavery into territory that threatened the economic aspirations of even free white laborers. Okay, so this thing caused a major problem in it, and like I said, it was one of the catalysts that led up to, you know, eventually what came to be the the Civil War. If you want to go in, brother Grimion, you could go ahead.
Islam more, and you know, I just want to say, you know, in that regard to the Dred Scott case, is that I like to address the Negro problem. The opinion of Justice Taney, basically, Justice Taney was not using any real, true, applicable laws in regard to Dred Scott.
That's right.
What those justices were using was not the law nor the history behind the laws. Basically, what they were using was the general opinion of Southern gentlemen in regard to the nature or their perceived nature of the Asiatic race and their misinformed knowledge in regard to the Canaan and the Ham myth.
That's right.
And you know, I just wanted to basically touch upon that part. If you want to continue to go in on that regard.
Yes, the case that I was mentioning, it slipped my mind, but it came to me. It was the Somerset case, the case of Somerset versus Stewart. And, you know, this was a case that took place in Britain, where the ruling was celebrated. This was a 1772 ruling, and in this particular ruling concerned a slave's liberty and status as property. So let me just give you a little background on this, because I pulled it up what I was looking for. The slave James Somerset was the property of a Boston customs official by the name of Charles Stewart. Somerset was brought to England. After 2 years, he escaped, but he was recaptured on November 26 of 1771 and was forced onto a ship bound for Jamaica. And with the help of Granville Sharp, a humanitarian anti-slavery campaigner, a writ of habeas corpus was granted by Lord Mansfield, the Lord Chief Justice, ordering the captain of the ship on which Somerset was incarcerated to produce Somerset before a court. The case was repeatedly adjourned. Somerset's legal team argued that although slavery was tolerated listen to what he's saying, although slavery was tolerated in the colonies, the court of the King's Bench was bound to apply the law of England. Mansfield Lord Mansfield ruled in 1772 that, quote, no master ever was allowed here in England to take a slave by force to be sold abroad because he deserted from his service. Therefore, the man must be discharged. And so James Somerset won his freedom. Lord Mansfield's judgment, his judgment was a profound effect on slaves. Many of them misunderstood the ruling to mean that slaves were emancipated in Britain. This wasn't the case, but the decision was that no slave could be forcibly removed from Britain and sold into slavery. And despite Lord Mansfield's ruling, the slave owners continued recapturing their runaway slaves and shipping them back to the colonies, right? However, the point of the Somerset case being is that this is the common law, because what they actually said was that the common law of England and Wales does not support the institution of chattel slavery. Let me just go a little bit further. Let's go. Hold on
Right,
one
more.
second.
If I can interject 1 second while you going, and the reason the brother is bringing this up is because the foundation of the laws, or the common law of the United States, if you will, fell out of the sky. This stuff descended from those people over there in Europe. I mean, in England, if you will. So if the foundation of freedom was decided by the Somerset case, then the United States adopting that same type of law can't really justify, if you will, that foundation of holding a man in chattel. And this all goes into the prophet, but I'm gonna stand down and let the brother go.
And so, yeah, that's basically the bottom line. The common law of England did not support the institution of chattel slavery, which the colonies were under the common law of England at that time. So when they start talking about when Justice McLean makes the claim that slavery had to be instituted by the positive law, in this instance municipal law of the colonies, what he's saying is that that is the works of the people in the colonies, and it actually was not supported by the governing laws of Britain. It wasn't supported by the governing laws of Britain. There was no Constitution of the United States at the time. So if we're going to go by the governing laws of Britain, it didn't support that. So now, as we come into the United States and you talk about the United States Constitution, the United States Constitution has founding principles embedded in it.
So let me ask the question now. I let y'all run with it.
But wait, I was
Go ahead, my brother.
Nice. So the bottom line to where we're trying to go, we're just trying to lay a little bit of the foundation before we actually read the dissenting opinions. The bottom line is that the institution of slavery was neither constitutional nor was it supported by the common law of England. So when you start talking about the decision of Justice Taney, and his decision is being based upon the existence of slavery, we have to understand that his opinion about slaves is based on nothing but his own racist ideology and his ideas and their ideas of white supremacy. It was not based on the common law of England. It was not based on the Constitution of the United States. So it's not based on anything legal. And as we're going to read through the dissenting opinions, what you're going to find is that it was not based on anything historically sound either. So I'll pause, bro.
Okay, and before we read anything, I want to ask a few things and make a few statements. But come on, Grimmy on there. You got something you want to add to that?
Or I was just gathering some records.
Okay. So I want to know this, brother Grimmy on there or brother Ali Bey. If the Dred Scott decision, because this, I think the opposing argument online was that we're not a citizen regardless. And if this is coming from Moors, this is ridiculous. But, however, if we're not a citizen regardless, what is our recourse? What is our ultimate resolve? What must we do?
I'll tell you what you have 4 options, and I tell people this all the time. You have 4 options. You can expatriate, and what I mean by that is not play games with it like certain dudes are playing games with the so-called expatriation thing, where they claim to be expatriates but they still reside here in the United States, knowing that even as a so-called expatriate, you're still going to have to deal with the law enforcement
and using
and the
that
laws
green government money.
and using the green government money and using everything that this country has to offer. When I say expatriate, I mean leave. I'm talking about getting into that Garvey state of mind, leave, go take up citizenship in some Islamic nation somewhere else that's more preferable. Okay, because a lot of them make the argument that this is a Christian nation. It's under the Christian doctrine of discovery. Fine, be that as it may. If this is not suitable, your first option is to leave. You can expatriate, go to some Islamic country for the Muslims, and for the other people, if you want to go to some West African country that's not Islamic, you want to go to Brazil, you want to go to South America, there are plenty of places in the world that you can actually go to and try to live a life that is more conducive to what it is that you feel you're supposed to be doing. That's number 1. You can expatriate. Number 2, you can attempt to initiate a civil war and try to overthrow this government. No, I'm being. Wait, go ahead, bro.
I had to laugh because I was on a panel this week, and I keep talking about this panel, and the brother said that we need to abolish the Constitution. And I said, what do you mean? How are we going to abolish the Constitution? What are you talking about? Overthrow the government? He said, no, I don't mean like that. We're not ready for that.
So how are you going to do it then?
So what are you talking about? But come on.
Right, it's stupid. So number 2, you can attempt to initiate a civil war and try to overthrow this government and put in a Moorish or Aboriginal or Indigenous or Islamic, do whatever it is that suits your thing. Try to overthrow the government. That's your second option. The third option is you can continue to identify problems and complain about them and sit back and do nothing, which has pretty much been the case so far. Because our people are very good at identifying problems and complaining about them. They're not good at actually doing anything to change the conditions. They're not very good at that. They're good at identifying problems, though. So you can continue to identify problems and complain about them and continue to get walked on by other people in this country. That's your third option. Or your very fourth option is you can learn how to properly function in this country, take your places within this country, in this government, and do what you need to do to become progressive and productive people and to advance your people in this country as citizens of this country. Those are the 4 options that you have. You can expatriate, you can try to initiate a civil war, you can continue to sit and complain and identify problems day in and day out and pop slick about it, or you can learn how to properly function in this society so that you can benefit yourself and your family and your community and help advance things.
And
it's your 4 options.
You know what's funny to me? It's funny to me how every time you see somebody coming with identifying the problem, they never have a solution. You ever notice that? They never have a solution. Right. Like, for instance, if somebody said, we were never made citizens. We were never made citizens. Dred Scott, it made all, quote unquote, Negroes, whether Moor or whatever, never made citizens. Okay, what's the solution?
Well, first of all, let's say that I'm going to read this one more time. The Dred Scott case, or the opinions of the case and the decision of the case, was overturned by the 13th and the 14th amendments to the Constitution. And the reason why the 13th, and see, people leave the 13th Amendment out, but the reason why the 13th Amendment is important in this particular case is because the decision or the opinion of Justice Taney is dependent upon the existence of chattel slavery. So when the 13th Amendment abolishes the institution of chattel slavery, out goes the opinion of Justice Taney.
Right. And I just want to add to that more. Like we talked about earlier, that Justice Taney's decision in his opinion that the people of African descent had no rights that a white man was bound to respect, that was based upon economic, like you were alluding to, it was based upon an economic decision, as well as a racist one, because 5 of the sitting Supreme Court justices at that time were slave owners, and the other, 2, I believe, Brother Ali Bey, they were just like, for all intents and purposes, bobbleheads that
Right.
basically went along with the decision because of the financial interest. So if you're a slave owner, if you will, or if they are slave owners, why would they make a decision that will go contrary to their own pockets?
Exactly. And that's exactly what they did. They worked in the interest of the southern states. And this is why the northern reaction was so strong and so drastic. And this is why the country eventually went into the Civil War. There were, like I said, there was a succession of events that took place that led up to the Civil War. But this was one of the main ones. This was one of the main ones because, like I said, one of the concerns of the Europeans of the North was that this slavery thing could creep into the northern states and threaten the economic aspirations of even the free white laborers.
Right, because
Okay,
there were European American slaves.
bruh, I found and posted in the Ali's Men group the federal census from 1860, the slave schedule that lists a gang of white people as slaves. I don't mean indentured servants. I don't mean apprentices. I mean slaves. They are listed as white and they are listed as slaves in the 1860 federal census slave schedule, 5 years before the abolition of the institution of chattel slavery. So all the way up until damn near the end of chattel slavery, you had people who were called white who were listed as slaves in the federal census slave schedule. So understand that thing, that institution was not just about quote unquote black people, but you had white people who were caught up in that as well.
And let's talk about another lie that
Mhm.
was in the Dred Scott decision. And one of the things that Justice Taney touted in the decision was that which was kind of going to segue into some other points that we want to make, and also into the truth of the dissenting opinion of Justice McLean and Justice Curtis. But this uh the Chief Supreme Court Justice Taney made the fallacious, false, erroneous statement that the state of Asiatics in 1857 was better during the time of the period of the formation of the United States of America, or the American Revolutionary War period. And one of the most important things that President Abraham Lincoln, said in that regard, and I'm trying to pull up the article, but I'm going to paraphrase
I got
some
it
of
up.
the things.
I got it up.
But I'm gonna just paraphrase real quick. Is that
Mhm.
Abraham Lincoln made the statement in his speech in reaction to the Dred Scott decision that uh, Justice Taney fact that the Asiatics state in 1857 was better than it was in the 1700s.
Hmm.
And Abraham Lincoln said that wasn't far from the truth, but that these racist laws were really new in their time, alluding to the fact that the Asiatics had power, and they had the power to vote, and they had the power of electors, which we will get into. And so, for all intents and purposes, Justice Taney was lying in that regard. And not only was he corrected by the dissenting opinion of the Supreme Court justices, but he was rebuked in that regard by Abraham Lincoln, saying that the Asiatic states and the state of the Asiatics at that time was better then than it was in 1857. So basically, brothers and sisters, what you have is a degeneration of the state of our people during that period of time, or what Abraham Lincoln pointed out and what Justice Curtis pointed out as the beginning of the 19th century. These people started to begin to change the laws to affect the progress and the representation of the Asiatics before the government in which they lived, which tied in also into what Noble Drew Ali said. And he used I was telling the brother the other day, the key word is back. B-A-C-K.
That's right.
Prophet Noble Drew Ali was saying he was bringing them back into the constitutional fold. He didn't say he was bringing them into the constitutional fold. He said he was bringing them back into the constitutional fold. So in order to bring something back into the constitutional fold, meaning it had to be there originally.
Bro,
that's a fact.
Hold up. I'm going to have sound effects next show. That was Flex drop a bomb on. That was Flex. I'm about to get me a bomb. That was Flex drop a bomb on him. Brother Zachary Grimion, can you please repeat that one more time? Woo! That was Flex drop a bomb on him. What you say,
loud more. Basically, saying what Prophet Noble Drew Ali tied into what Abraham Lincoln was saying and what Justice Curtis was saying, and he was saying that he was bringing the Moors or the Asiatics back into the constitutional fold. He wasn't saying he was bringing them into the constitutional fold, bringing them back into the constitutional fold, which means they had to be in there before these different opinions in these cases. And like Ali Bey said earlier, I would like to touch on, these things were happening not on the federal level, but they were happening on a municipal level and were trickling their way up to the state governments to basically to disenfranchise the Moors who were in America at that time.
And let me just read where you're getting this from. This is from the divine warning by the prophet for the nations, where he says, you who doubt, and this is an interesting paragraph. I'm going to read this paragraph, and I want people to really listen to what he's saying in this paragraph, because it's time to use some common sense and some logic and some reason to really just grasp what it is that the man was saying. He says, you who doubt whether I, the prophet, and my principles are right for the redemption of my people, go to those that know law. But guess where he said to go to? He said, in the city hall. And then he said, and among the officials in your government.
Right.
Now, why would he tell you to go to the city hall to ask them anything if you are not a part of this situation? Why the city hall? Why the officials in the government? So he says, go to those that know law, because basically he's telling y'all don't really know law, right? He said, go to those that know law in the city hall and among the officials in your government and ask them under an intelligent tone, and they will be glad to render you a favorable reply, for they are glad to see me bring you out of darkness into light. So money doesn't make the man. It's free national standards and power that makes a man and a nation. The wealth of all national governments, gold and silver and commerce, belong to the citizens. And without your national citizenship, by name and principles, you have no true wealth. And I am hereby calling on all true citizens. I want to talk about who the true citizens are, because I know this has never been addressed before either, and it may be controversial what I'm going to say about who the true citizens are he was referring to. But he says, I'm calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution, because this is contextualizing it, and you'll see what I'm going to say is going to make sense with what he's saying. I'm calling on all true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution to help me in my great missionary work, because I need all support from all true American citizens.
Yes, sir.
Of where? the United States of America. He didn't say universal salvation of law. He said the United States of America. Then he says, help me to save my people who have fallen from. This goes to the point that Brother Grimion was just making. They've fallen from means they were once there, but fallen from the constitutional laws of government. Then he says, I'm depending on your support to get them back to the constitutional fold again. That they will learn to love instead of hate and will live according to love, true peace, freedom, and justice, supporting our free national constitution of where? The United States of America. He didn't say of the Moorish Science Temple of America. He said the free national constitution of the United States of America. Right? Some people try to say, oh, you know, when he's talking about the Constitution, he's talking about the divine Constitution and bylaws. No. He's talking about the Constitution of the United States of America, and he says it very clearly. This piece is a political laced piece. This is a political piece dealing with the issue of citizenship for the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America and the members of the Asiatic nations in general. Okay, so now let's see, what is he talking about when he says true citizens? He's talking about, who are these true citizens that he's talking about he needs help from? The Europeans who cling to the principles embedded in the founding documents for all men and women. That's who he's talking to. Those are the true citizens, the ones who cling to the principles embedded in the founding documents, those principles that he mentioned, like that all men are created free and equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. There were Europeans. If you go and do the history, there were Europeans, there were always Europeans who felt that way, that those principles applied to all men, not just so-called white men. They were always European. This is why you had the abolitionists. This is why you had the people who helped Harriet Tubman. This is why the North and the South eventually butt heads and wound up going into a bloody civil war, because you always had people that are within the European nations who felt that those principles were being violated by those people in the South, those racist white supremacists in the South, and they wind up clashing over it. So the prophet already knew that. He knew who the true citizens were. These are the people, like he said, the true citizens that stand for a national free government and the enforcement of the Constitution. Well, if you know that the Constitution embodies the principles that he's talking about, then you understand who he's talking about when he says the true citizens. He's talking to those people who cling to those principles for all men. United States. So that's what he's talking about. And so at the end of the day, the divine a divine warning by the prophet for the nations is a political piece pertaining to the issue of citizenship and bringing our people through the Jim Crowism that he mentions, Jim Crowism, bringing our people through Jim Crowism into the proper status as citizens, where the rights and the responsibilities of citizenships is there for our people, just like it is for anybody else, and to be able to live in a civilized and prosperous government, just like anybody else in this United States.
Islam, and the follow up on the brother, you know, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, in the same article that Brother Ali Bey read from, the prophet said in that last paragraph, he says, "So I, the prophet, am hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me to remove this great sin." Well, what is the great sin? The great sin is the stripping of us from the constitutional fold and our continued adherence to being outside of the constitutional fold. The trip part about it is we have the same thing today with these Negroes running around here talking about don't participate, don't vote, don't do this. This is the sin of the people being outside of the constitutional fold. But Prophet Noble Drew Ali goes on to say the great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people. See, we are practicing these things.
Yes, indeed.
And I saw a sister post something on Facebook today, say Moors don't vote. They are actually going against the edicts of Prophet Noble Drew Ali in this regard, in the continuing, in the perpetuation of said sin. And Noble Drew Ali goes on to say, because they know it is not the true and divine way, and without understanding, they have what?
Fallen.
Not that they were down there already, they are fallen. So to fall means that you had to be in some elevated or exalted state, and then gravity brought you down. But he said they've fallen from the true light into utter darkness of the sin. The same sin that he's talking about is the political sin, if you will, of what they're doing, and the social sin of not participating. And there is not a nation or temple. He said there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc., in their present condition of their endeavorment. That's why nobody come to help us, y'all. So I'm gonna stand down on that demonstration.
But I just want to let me just add to what you were saying, because there was something that I wanted you to get. You said that the great sin which has been committed and is being practiced by my people in the United States of America. So he says our people are in the United States of America, right? Let's just be clear. Let's just be clear, because you know, people want to play games with this, with the United States thing, and let's just understand the United States of America is the same thing. And I'm going to read some from a Supreme Court case that lets that makes that very, very clear, that the United States and the United States of America is the same exact thing. But let me just read further what you said. You said that they won't be recognized socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc. Then it says, in their present condition of their endeavorment, in which they themselves try to force upon a civilized world, they will not refrain from their sinful ways of action. When that sinful ways of action is just what you were mentioning, and their deeds. Listen to this: their deeds have brought about Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that harms, that brings harm to the human beings on earth. So when was one of the last places we saw the rise of Jim Crowism? And I talk about this all the time. One of the last places we saw the rise of Jim Crowism was in Ferguson, Missouri, where that's right. Where we seen the same type of attitudes and sentiments being demonstrated that these people are talking about right now. The non-activity, the inactivity of the people, where a so-called majority black town like Ferguson, Missouri, allowed a minority of white people, quote unquote white people, to come in and take over their city government. Took over their city government, took over their municipal court, took over their police department. Okay, and instituted a system of terror and oppression that they ran on the so-called black people who were in the majority in that city for years. The Department of Justice uncovered this nonsense. What was it, last year or earlier this year, something like that? They uncovered this as they investigated that city after the Mike Brown murder. They actually allowed Jim Crowism to set in that damn city due to their inactivity, and that is the same type of nonsense that these people are perpetuating all over social media.
That's right, Moore. And let me say this real quick. And we've talked about it. You know, Brother Sharif Bey went into it in great detail. We all go into it in great detail. And the ideology of using the Dred Scott decision to try to prove that an Asiatic has no right that a European is bound to respect, the trying to point out that the 13th Amendment is null and void, trying to point out the 14th Amendment is null and void, the 15th Amendment is null and void. These are the legal constructs of the intelligentsia of Confederate sympathizers.
That's right.
These are the people who for years taught these sovereign citizenship classes to their own people. And somewhere along the line, or more, got his backside into one of those classes and came in some of that information and took these same hateful, racist, European Confederate ideologies that was preserved in the Old South and then applying it to Moorish. And that's why we are having the problems that we are having today. And when you look at the stuff that these people do, filing, sitting liens on houses, doing it. These are the type of stuff that these militiamen did to vex the federal government, which is Drew Ali said that we are part and parcel of this said government.
That's right.
And even when you look at the rise of these Republicans, and I hate to call them Republicans because originally the Republican Party was formed for noble ambitions. The Republican Party was formed as a result of the back turn of on the Missouri Compromise. But so I hate to call these people Republicans. But since they call themselves Republicans, we'll use that term. That's why these people are always fighting. Make the federal government smaller. And what do these sovereign citizenship Moors do? Attack the federal government. This is not applicable. U.S. don't have no jurisdiction over me. This is the same thing that arguments, that the David Duke groups and all of these European supremacists make. And let me get back to the point about these people talk about, oh, government is too big. Government is too big. The reason why they want to minimize the size and the power of the federal government is not because of anything that has to do with spending, because those Republicans take as much away from the government as far as money and budgetary issues as Democrats and other parties that may be in Congress. But the reason that they want to make the federal government smaller is because the federal government is the sole possessors of the Constitution of the United States, the thing which they seek to undo so they can go back to these autonomous, if you will, or desire to go back to these autonomous states or these states' rights so they can begin to pass these laws. And it ain't just about race, it's also about gender. Because these people are women haters. You just go ahead and listen to some of the things, not just Trump, listen to some of the things that these people want to do to control the bodies of women and what women are supposed to be at and what they're supposed to do with their body, and the disparaging comments that they have been making about rape and a woman wanted and she need to, when they say practice how to put a coffee mug between her legs in order to prevent from being raped, and all of these disparaging remarks. These people who infiltrated the Republican Party are the same Confederate sympathizers with these same racist, sexist, misogynistic ideas, and they want to make the federal government smaller so they can seize the power of the federal government to stop them from discriminating against people and putting the power of Jim Crow back in effect on state levels.
That's right.
Whole thing is all about. And people talking about they not go vote.
Back when the United States was formed under the Articles of Confederation, they don't understand at that point the central government was much weaker and the state governments were stronger. This is what they want to go back to. I had put up a piece on my page where I put up a picture of the Confederate flag, and you know how Donald Trump talks about making America great again. I always said that to me is code for the South shall rise again. And I believe that that's what they're looking for. When you start talking about a weaker central government, stronger state governments, and things of that nature, you're going back into states' rights issues where these people want to be able to disfranchise people again. They want to be able to block people from their civil and political rights without people being able to, and they know that the remedy for our people has always been sought at the federal level. This is why
at the federal level.
This is why they want to weaken the federal government so that you don't have the protection of the central government the way that you did in previous times. And so let me just do this so we can kind of go into the Dred Scott case. I want to say this again as a reiteration. The Dred Scott decision was overturned by the 13th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution. If you didn't hear that before, The Dred Scott decision was overturned by the 13th and 14th Amendments to the Constitution. Why the 13th Amendment? Because the 13th Amendment abolished the institution of chattel slavery, and Justice Taney's opinion about Africans in slavery is dependent upon the existence of the institution of chattel slavery. So when the 13th Amendment abolishes the institution of chattel slavery, out goes that opinion. Okay, the 14th Amendment clarifies the issue of citizenship. Who is a citizen and how citizenship is acquired. The only reason that the 14th Amendment came into existence was to clarify the issue which had been muddied by the Dred Scott opinion. Okay, it's been muddied by that, but before that, they were dealing with the issue of citizenship based on the common practice and the common principles that they got from England, called jus soli and jus sanguinis, which is the right of soil and the right of blood. They dealt with the issue of citizenship, and it wasn't even a question until they came with this bogus opinion in the Dred Scott case, which muddied the issue, and they had to clarify it once and for all through a constitutional amendment. They didn't want to just use an act of Congress. They wanted it to be an actual constitutional amendment so that it would, some other Congress can't come and overturn it later. So they wanted to make sure that as a constitutional amendment, which has to be put in place by 3/4 of the state legislatures, that it's not something that can be easily overturned. All right. And so since the adoption, the ratification and adoption of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, there has never been a Supreme Court, there has never been a Congress that has acted to overturn any of those Reconstruction amendments. I don't care what any of these sovereign citizen Moors have to say about whether or not it was properly ratified. That argument about the improper ratification of the Reconstruction amendments also comes from those Confederate holdouts who are still mad that they lost the Civil War and lost their alleged property to so-called black people, you so-called Moors. All right, so why don't we do this? Let's go into what Abraham Lincoln actually had to say about the Dred Scott case. Let's do that. This is what he had to say about the Dred Scott case. There's a book called The Speeches and Letters of Abraham Lincoln from 1832 to 1865. It's edited by a man named Merwin Rowe. This was first published in 1907. And it comes from an earlier publication, 1894, called The Complete Works of Abraham Lincoln, published by a company called the Century Company. And this is what, it starts on page 61 of this particular book. And this is what he has to say about the Dred Scott decision. He says, "We think the Dred Scott decision is erroneous. We know the court that made it has often overruled its own decisions, and we shall do what we can to have it to overrule this. We offer no resistance to it, however." Then he goes on and says, "I have said in substance that the Dred Scott decision was in part based on assumed historical facts, which were not really true. And I ought not to leave the subject without giving some reasons for saying this. I therefore give an instance or two which I think fully sustain me. Chief Justice Taney, in delivering the opinion of the majority of the court, insists at great length that Negroes were no part of the people who made or for whom was made the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution of the United States. On the contrary, Judge Curtis, in his dissenting opinion, shows that in 5 of the then 13 states, to wit, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina, free Negroes were voters and in proportion to their numbers had the same part in making the Constitution that the white people had. He shows this was
read that part again, Moore. Read that part again, because Moore's talk about the Asiatics helping make the Constitution of the United States, but they never have any proof. But we got the proof. Read that part again, Moore.
Okay, Judge Curtis, in his dissenting opinion, shows that in 5 of the then 13 states, to wit, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina, free Negroes were voters and in proportion to their numbers had the same part in making the Constitution that the white people had. He shows this with so much particularity as to leave absolutely no doubt of its truth. And as a sort of conclusion on that point, he holds the following language. This is what he's now quoting Justice Curtis. This is Abraham Lincoln quoting Justice Curtis. He says again, Chief Justice Taney says this: it's difficult at this day to realize the state of public opinion in relation to that unfortunate race. Before I go further, let me just say something, because they think that this thing applied only to so-called Negroes, blacks, and coloreds. But Justice Taney didn't make any distinction between Negroes and Moors, or Negroes or coloreds and Moors, and blacks and Moors, or Africans and Moors. He says this. This is what Justice Taney says: it is difficult at this day to realize the state of public opinion in relation to that unfortunate race. He's talking about everybody, which prevailed in the civilized and enlightened portions of the world at the time of the Declaration of Independence and when the Constitution of the United States was framed and adopted. And again, after quoting from the Declaration, Taney goes on and says, the general words above quoted would seem to include the whole human family, and if they were used in a similar instrument at this day, would so be understood. The Chief Justice does not directly assert, but plainly assumes as a fact that the public estimate of the black man is more favorable now than it was in the days of the Revolution. This assumption is a mistake. In some trifling particulars, the condition of that race has been ameliorated, but as a whole in this country, the change between then and now is decidedly the other way. And their ultimate destiny has never appeared so hopeless as in the last 3 or 4 years. In 2 of the 5 states, New Jersey and North Carolina, that then gave the free Negro the right of voting, the right has since been taken away. And in a 3rd, New York, it has been greatly abridged, while it has not been extended, so far as I know, to a single additional state, though the number of the states has more than doubled. In those days,
I just want to interject real quick on those things, because you see what you're saying. I just wanted to point out to the listening audience that these things that Justice Curtis is saying, that Brother Ali Bey is quoting from, ties directly up to Prophet Noble Drew Ali article, A Divine Warning by the Prophet for the Nations. You all see what's going on here. The brother, it pointed out the fact that this is a degenerating condition. So basically, people are falling from the constitutional fold due to the increased activity, if you will, of these Confederate or slavery sympathizers. And these people are enacting these things, and we are continually beginning to fall from grace, quote unquote, if you will.
That's right.
Get out.
That's right, because the bottom line is, people, this one guy kept asking, where does the right to vote come from? And he, a lot of people assume that the right to vote, erroneously, they assume that it comes from the Voting Rights Act of 1965, I believe it is. I said, well, brother, you understand, so-called black people were voting in the late 1800s. This is in accordance with, the passage of the 15th Amendment. We know they were actually voting before that, and that they voted for the ratification and adoption of the Constitution itself. But I'm just giving him a point of reference that he can immediately look to based on the Constitution and the passage of the 15th Amendment. I'm like, in the late 1800s, so-called black people were voting, bro. How would you think that the right to vote comes from the 1965 Voting Rights Act that you allege has to be voted on every 25 years, which is also erroneous? It's not true, but this is what they're saying. So my thing is, I tried to explain to him, voting, or the right of suffrage, is rooted in citizenship. This is why the Constitution didn't speak on qualification of voting, and this is why it didn't speak on what it is that it took to become a citizen, because they were operating on the principles of jus soli and jus sanguinis in terms of citizenship. And along with that citizenship came the civil right, and understand that voting is an actual civil right. civil right that is rooted in citizenship itself. When these people started to go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I just wanted to interject once again, real quick, more. I just wanted to go back to something too before I forget in that regard, to where Justice Taney about this whole Negro state thing was basically a one, and I hope everybody got their pens and papers out taking notes, because I want everybody to go look up, if you haven't heard of her before, this Moabitess by the name of Elizabeth Freeman, also known as Mumbet. That's M-U-M-B-E-T, and some people spell it B-E-T-T. And with that being said, now notice Justice Taney talked about the state of our people being better at that point of where he was at than it was in the 1700s. Just wanted to point out the lie. And he was saying that when the founding fathers wrote this instrument, that they didn't have our people in mind. Now, before I make this point about Mumbet or Elizabeth Freeman, we have to remember that the Dred Scott decision, if you will, was rendered in 1857, or these cases were taking place about that particular time. Now, with that being said, if you do research on Biden's Mumbet, she filed a lawsuit. This was a sister that was born into slavery, and I want to say something about slavery. So this sister, Mumbet or Elizabeth Freeman, if you will, actually sued her slave owners, if you will, or the slave master, based upon the 17 Constitution, or the state constitution of Massachusetts, and actually won, thereby forever slavery in the state of Massachusetts. And this case was so powerful that it set precedents in Massachusetts, that another individual who came up, I can't remember that individual's name, who was also in a state of servitude, came and used the Mumbet case, or Elizabeth Freeman's case, as precedent. And this is years before Dred Scott ever sued in court for his freedom. So this is showing you the erroneous nature of what Justice Taney and the rest of the Supreme Court justices did in regard to that. And see, people talk about this Dred Scott like he was an old buster. But Dred Scott was a hero, because Ali Bey alluded to it, because the fact that he sued his slave owners helped precipitate, or was part, not the only thing, but one of the things that precipitated the Civil War, and helped to bring that demonstration about. So when we dealing with Elizabeth Freeman, she sued for her freedom, thereby showing that it was erroneous that Moors didn't have no right under this government, under this constitution, because that sister won and set precedents in that state, showing you that Taney and all of his cronies were liars in that regard. Another thing I wanted to point out too about the American Revolution, and I have a record here in regard to that. I have a picture, and if anybody want to see it, they can come to my Facebook page, Zachary Grimion L on Facebook, and I share that with you. And I also wrote a note on that in that regard, that they had brothers with fezzes on, and we're not talking about the Circassians, if you will, mercenaries that was being hired. We talking about Moors looking like Taharka Bey with fezzes on, fighting the Civil War. Proof. I'll show the picture.
Yes.
I'll show the picture. I got the proof. So with that being said, let me make a point about the Civil War, showing where Justice Taney was in error. So with this being said, this is This record is by Henry Wagner, and basically what he is regarding, he's talking about a German private who was part of the Royal DuPonts, who took note of all the Moors that was fighting in the American Revolution. Let me read this. Every victory has its price. In the wake of such a grand triumph, no one wished to dwell on the cost in human lives. Paintings of the Yorktown victory show it is undeniable glory and give no hint of the scene of horror beyond the lines of fluttering banners and crisply uniformed officers. Once again, a foreigner noted Private George Daniel Floor of the Royal DuPonts walking, listen up, walking over the now calm battlefield. He wrote of seeing all over the place and wherever you looked, corpses lying about that had been buried. He took note of, listen, he took note of who these people were. The larger part of them were Moors.
Mm, mm.
On the both sides, with the Americans, the French, with the British and the Hessians, and also Floor observes that black had paid the highest cost in defeat and victory. And y'all talking about why Moorish Science Temple of America fly the American flag? Get out of here.
Yo, let me just finish up on Abraham Lincoln. That's cool, talk.
Come on, brother. I'm enjoying this.
I'm enjoying
this, brother.
I'm gonna just cut it short because the speech is very long. Cut right to the chase and go to the piece that Abraham Lincoln cites, where he's citing from the Dred Scott case, part of Justice Curtis. Is what he said. I'm gonna go back again. He says, on the contrary, this is Abraham Lincoln. On the contrary, Justice Curtis, in his dissenting opinion, shows that in 5 of the then 30, to wit, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, and North Carolina, free Negroes were voters, and in proportion to their numbers, had the same part in making the Constitution that the white people had. He shows this with so much particularity as to leave absolutely no doubt of his truth. And as a sort of conclusion on that point, holds the following. Here's what he says. He's citing Justice Curtis. The Constitution was ordained and established by the people of the United States through the action in each state of those persons who were qualified by its laws to act thereon in behalf of themselves and all other citizens of the states. As we have seen, colored persons were among those qualified by law to act on the subject. These colored persons were not only included in the body of, quote unquote, the people of the United States, by whom the Constitution was ordained and established, but in at least 5 of the states, they had the power to act, and doubtless did act by their suffrages upon the question of the adoption and ratification of the United States Constitution. I hope everybody, I hope everybody got that. Because see, this is Abraham Lincoln. To this yourself, people, if you want to see what Abraham Lincoln had to say and read the entire speech, because if you go to the book, which you can find online, The Speeches and Letters of Abraham Lincoln, 1832 to 1865, edited by Merwin Rowe. If you go to that book, you'll see that the actual speech is about 10 pages long. It starts on page 61 of that book. Page 71. It's about 10 pages long. I'm just giving you a brief of what was said. But if you read that entire speech, Abraham Lincoln himself is massacring massacres the Supreme Court in their decision on on Dred Scott. So let me just go to this, just to give it some more weight. Northern reaction to the Dred Scott decision. Let me just read some of this. The first to publicly react to the Dred Scott decision were Northerners, who wasted no time in reviling the decision in their newspapers. To Northerners, the decision was like a declaration of war on all of the ideals and freedoms awarded them by their states and territories, which stood opposed to the institution of slavery. Most articles published in Northern periodicals were in opposition to the decision, stating that it was the result of a slave power conspiracy that the Supreme Court belonged to. And there are other members of the conspiracy, being President Buchanan, who was the president at that time, and prominent Democratic politicians. The author of one Northern article even declared that since the court's decision was the result of political corruption, regarded throughout the free states and wherever the pulse of liberty beats, only as the votes of 5 slaveholders and 2 doughfaces upon a question where their opinion was not even asked and where their votes would not count. About the decision in the North. I'm gonna give you another piece. The Northern articles also revealed just how important and popular a news story the Dred Scott decision was. On the decision's newsworthiness, one Chicago Daily Tribune article declared, quote, "Our readers will bear with us if we frequently bring this matter to their notice. Since the organization of the government, no event has occurred that will entail upon the country the consequences which are involved in this partisan movement of the slavery propagandists. It is the first step in a revolution which, if not arrested, nullifies the revolution of 1776 and makes us all slaves again." The impassioned speech in this quote, which served as a call to action, became a commonplace in other Northern editorials. One such article that included this stirring speech was "Sebastopol is taken." That's the name of the article, from the March 19th, 1857 issue of the Chicago Daily Tribune. It started out by analyzing responses to the decision published in the Southern papers, saying, quote, "It is curious to read the comments of the leading slaveholder press on the decision of the Dred Scott case, and to observe how closely the Buchanan journals of the North, when they dare speak out, echoed the spirit of these comments. Sebastopol is taken. Shout the Richmond Inquirer. The Republicans snap and start and howl. It is the last throw of fanaticism," exclaims the Times. The article continued by stating that the slave power conspiracy could not stop the Northerners' fight for freedom. This article concluded with a call to action asserting the remedy is union, action, the ballot box. There is on the side of the free states the population and the power, the votes. And whenever these votes shall agree that slavery shall not be the fundamental law of the land, the decree will be omnipotent. It concluded by propounding, let the free state unit in its congressional representation on the side of freedom. Let the next president be a Republican, and mark an era kindred with that of 1776, and the country and the Constitution be ruled and considered by men kindred in aim and principle with Washington, Jefferson, and the fathers. The author of this article predicted what was needed to combat the effects of the Dred Scott decision. He predicted that a republic to establish freedom for all people in the United States, and unbeknownst to him at the time, that prediction will come true with Abraham Lincoln. And you can go on and find this. This is in journals.chapman.edu. You can find the more responses action to the Dred Scott decision. Legislators, many of the courts in the northern states disregarded the Dred Scott decision as at all. Many of the northern states refused to acknowledge the decision as a legitimate decision and would not allow that decision to take any root in their states whatsoever. This is how strongly they felt about it. And this is why I'm saying that this particular case was one of the catalysts to lead us into what became they thought that they would they're putting a conclusion or a stamp on the question of slavery, when they made it, actually helped to divide the country even further and cause even more hostilities between the North and the South. I understand the country was divided about this decision. That the southern states who were pro the Dred Scott decision actually seeing. So when you all are making these arguments pro Justice Taney and his bull crap, when you're making half of people, these racist Confederates felt that you Moors were supposed to be their slave, God-given right to enslave the children and descendants of Canaan. When y'all are making these arguments claiming that they're based in law, when you know, we know, I don't know if you all know, but we know that they weren't based in any law. We know that they weren't facts. Understand that you're making the claims of white supremacists. You're making their arguments for them. Making the arguments of the people who seceded from the Union. You're making the arguments of the people who were ultimately held guilty. They were ultimately held guilty of treason, all crimes. Okay, these are the people that you're making the arguments. I'm just saying, these are the people that they're making arguments on behalf of. They don't understand what they're talking about.
Absolutely.
And then let me just read this.
Y'all, bro, you know, I've been sitting back here. Just this, you know, I ain't been going in. I'm just sitting back, taking it all in. Brother Grimion, are you there? Let me drop bomb.
Let me just say this. Want to just say this one last thing. I'm gonna read a couple of sentences from Political Slavery by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. He says, anytime, local elections, not just doing, but anytime fails or refuses to cast a sacred ballot at the polls, they separate themselves from all. Surely this is the one connecting medium for a citizen to his nation, more than belated beasts of burden. Then he says this in All Registering. It's a piece called All Registering in the Moorish Literature. The 3,000 Muslims, the Grand Temple and the West Side Temple are making ready to register in order to take the lead for the various candidates whom they have been instructed to vote for. So I just want to say that when people are talking about we're not supposed to vote and we're not a part of this thing and blah, 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 the Prophet had a whole different perspective they're talking about. That's it.
Hey, I want to say this. My brother's dropping some bombs today. Watch it. Hey, bro, listen to this. I got a brother, right? He inboxed me while y'all was talking, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it, bro. Bring me on there. Bring me on there. So you ready?
He might have stepped away. He might have stepped away.
So I was about to look at this, and I told the brother to call in. If you're watching, call in. I gave you the number, brother. I gave you the number. Call in. See, let me tell you something about Ali's men. We are the elite Moorish American. We are the elite Moorish American Muslim. We are the ones that would take on all civilized opposers.
Hey, we stepped in, bro. We stepped into the den with the vipers and the devils and the let me stop before I ain't gonna call. Let me just stop.
What we must do is keep it respectful. If we can keep it respectful, that means that everybody is trying to learn. Because who knows? Somebody might call in and we may walk away learning something. Our understanding may evolve to the next level. Because see, ultimately, brothers and Ali's men are like this. We're not trying to be right. We're just trying to get to what's right. And if that's your interest, man, call in. If you're not trying to be right, but trying to get to what's right, we got something to talk about. Because on that point, we can respect each other. Like it's no different when two scholars are debating. I'm talking about a collegiate level scholar, debating his equal, you know, at that point, they don't disrespect each other because they both walk out maybe learning something new. So if you got if you have something that you want to add to that, especially if you don't agree with anything that was said, then call in. We invited. Call in.
I got something to add. I got something to add real quick before Grimion come back in.
Come on, brother.
And this pertains to what the United States of Hooven and Allison Company versus Evatt. This was a 1945 Supreme Court case. The citation is 324 U.S.652. Okay, that's volume 324, United States 650, 1945. The case is Hooven and Allison Company versus Evatt. It explains the various senses in which the term United States is recognized in law. This is also the insular Supreme Court, and this is found in the volume 15 of the Harvard. The insular case is volume 15, Harvard Law Review, page 169 and 281. It's explained in this way. This is what they say. The states, quote unquote, may be used in any one of several senses. Merely the sovereign occupying the position analogous to that of other sovereigns in the family of nations. That's number one. Designate the territory over which the sovereignty of the United States extends. It may be the collective name of the states which are united by and under the Constitution. Period. That's it. So all of this stuff about the corporation and yada yada yada, they you know,
right. That's right.
They use which one is this? I'm trying to pull it real quick. Title, which title is that, man? They use it's real funny. But anyway, they use Title 20 of the United States Code, Section 3002, and they use this as their alleged proof that the United Federal Corporation. The problem is when you read Title 8 of the United States Code, Section 3002, what it says is that for the purposes of this particular chapter, purposes of that chapter, it says the word that they use is the word means. So this is what it says. With regard to Title 28, Section 3002 of the United States Codes, all we have to do is look at an unbiased eye, and we'll get a proper context to see what this is actually saying. So it says Title 28, Part 6, Chapter 176, Chapter A, Section 3002, Part 15. United States means. It doesn't say United States is. It says United States means A, a federal corporation. B, an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States. See, this is where it becomes circular. If they keep reading, they'll see how stupid the thing actually sounds, what they're trying to say. Because if they want to replace the word means with is, what you're going to wind up having once you get to B is United States is an agency, department, commission, board, or other entity of the United States. Or the United States, when you're dealing with C, the United States is an instrumentality of the United States. Now you're dealing with circular stupidity. Okay, that's why they purposely avoided the word is and said that, and instead they use the word means for the purposes of this particular title in this chapter, which is chapter 176. Chapter 176, debt collection. Okay, the Title 28 is listed as Judiciary and Judicial Procedure. The name of the title itself should indicate to the reader that everything under this title is pertaining to the federal judiciary and judicial procedure, as it is the part of the United States codes that governs the federal judicial system. Chapter 176 is entitled Federal Debt Collection Procedure. Subchapter A is entitled Definitions and General Provisions. And if you look at the top of the page, it says, as used in this chapter, United States means. In this chapter, i.e. chapter 176, Federal Debt Collection Procedure. That means that outside of that chapter, the United States may not mean a federal corporation. But the problem is they don't know what a federal corporation is. So What I had done was actually took the time to put together and compile a list of a bunch of federal corporations that can actually be found in the United States Code, like Title 15 United States Code, Section 714, the Commodity Credit Corporation. That's a federal corporation. Title 12 United States Code, Section 635, the Export-Import Bank. That's a federal corporation. Then you have, that's where L calling. Then you have Title 7 United States Code, Section 1501, a Federal Crop Insurance Corporation. So there is, I actually have a note that I compiled, and it's on Facebook. Anybody can find it right in my notes section. It's called "The United States of America is not a federal or state incorporated entity. It is neither one." This particular section of the United States Code that they're trying to use to qualify their points is completely erroneous, and they're only doing it because the sovereign citizens have done it previously in the past, and they've never actually took the time to read the thing and try to read it for understanding. It clearly says the United States means a federal corporation. All one has to do is look up what a federal corporation is, and you'll find a whole list of federal corporations as it pertains to federal debt collection procedures. The United States in judicial proceedings will show up. If you're dealing with one of these federal corporations, the particular federal corporation will show up in federal proceedings under the name United States. That's it. That's it, because they're going to tell you that the United States is an agency, a department, a commission, a board, or other entity. They'll say that those things can show up, because you can look these things up. What is an agency of the United States? What is a department of the United States? What's a commission, a board, or other entity like an instrumentality of the United States? These are all things that you can actually look up. Look up what these things are. What is a federal corporation? You can find a whole list of federal corporations. So no, the United States is not a federal corporation. It is not a state incorporated entity. It's a bunch of bogus sovereign citizen Confederate nonsense, pseudo-legal mumbo jumbo. And I know y'all have seen me say that to y'all plenty of times. That's exactly what it is. Pseudo-legal mumbo jumbo.
And someone basically interjected this information in the Moorish movement. You know,
real quick, hold that thought right there. All right, go ahead.
I feel that more. I feel that. Basically,
more tonight, man. Let's go.
and basically, more. I just want to tell these people, like, I'm not gonna call no names, but all of these Moorish, these organizations outside of the Moorish Science Temple of America, you know, who believe in these things. All of the people that are in the Moorish Science Temple are quasi advocates. And more, let me get on the people in the Moorish Science Temple of America. You know, they got people in the Moorish Science Temple of America who may not necessarily participate in this sovereign citizen stuff. Wink at it, if you understand what I mean. They give it a little bit of wink. They give it a little bit of a nod, and that's why this poison has been allowed to grow and take over the Moorish movement. So, you know, and I always go back to my own personal trials and tribulation in being a sheik in the Moorish Science Temple of America, and actually trying to build a temple in a city that the Moorish movement has never been before. You know, you brothers are blessed up in the East Coast. You brothers up North Midwest have been blessed because, you know, for the most part, the Moorish movement has been active and solvent, if you will, in those areas for generations. The movement started. Baltimore, New Jersey, so on and so forth. But we never had a temple down here in New Orleans. And the reason that I'm bringing this up, because my trials and tribulations is that every time I found an individual or a group of individuals who was interested in anything Moorish, they had already been poisoned by this information by the time they even got to my temple. So I had to spend a lot of time re-educating people that this stuff is false, is not true, and not with a little bit of backlash and rebellion. And this temple became, I have the term, and I'm not disrespecting anyone, I have the term that I call nationality crumb card snatchers. Illegitimate Moors with these paperwork packages, they send people to legitimate Moorish science temples of America, tell them to go get a nationality card and bring them back in. So, man, we still got thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of property sitting around here where you looking for people to say, hey man, let's get something going or whatever. But you think you have dedicated people, but what you have is nationality crumb card snatchers who basically just come to your temple for a nationality card so they can bring it to the seal of this, the table of that, and you know what I'm saying, more? And you basically just always building and trying to replenish a temple because people been poisoned by YouTube. People think that Moorish science, if you will, or Islamism is their get out of jail free card, or they get out of debt or credit card. But I want to switch gears real quick, more. I want to screenshot something in reference to something that I was screen share, something that I was talking about in reference to something that I was talking about earlier. Y'all see that? Am I up? Is my screen up?
I see your icon. I don't see anything else.
No, I don't see nothing on the screen.
Okay, let's see.
While you getting that up, there's a good piece that was published by Julianne Hammer, online publication called Religion and Politics. This is called Thomas Jefferson's Quran by Julianne Hammer, April 9th, 2014. Y'all should get that article and read that article. Go ahead, brother.
All right, why are you getting that together? Grim. Hey, Grim. Get me on there. So he can't hear me right now. But anyway, why are you getting that together? I got a brother on the phone line. Brother Ali Bey. Let me know if you can hear him when he talks. Islam, brother, can you hear me?
Islam, peace, Lord.
Can you hear the brother?
Yeah, I am. Islam.
Okay, my brother. Tell the family who you are and where you calling from.
Islam, peace and love, Morris. Peace, brother. This brother J Bay calling out of Houston, Texas. Islam, family.
Islam. Can you hear him good, Ali Bey?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Okay, he can hear you real good, brother. Let's do this. Let me ask you a question. Is it a statement or a question or
Thank you, brother Ali Bey.
Brother Grim, no, Grim, you breaking up. But I want you to listen to this, brother. We got a brother on the phone. I'm trying to get to if it's a question or a statement, and we're about to get to a few questions real quick. So hold tight. Now, what do you say, my brother? Is it a question, statement? What we gonna be dealing with here?
Islam, Morris, a question. I want to first give honors to my brothers for his great work and going in, especially on the sovereign demonstration and cleaning up the process movement and making sure that, we go in on the sovereign stuff. I feel like it needs to be addressed. So I give honors to my brothers and sisters for their work. More, give honors, more.
Islam. And my brother, what we do, right? I want you to know that before you go in, just remember when anybody call into the Moorish World TV platform, we want to know that we're not attacking individuals or groups. We're only looking at the ideal. Never ever do we attack the individual or group. Once we do that, we are outside of law. You understand? Right. And the law I'm speaking about is the laws of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. We are to teach love. We are for peace, not destruction. Yet we must address the ideal, because the ideal is the destructive measure. It was one time that our ideal wasn't always right. So the Prophet Noble Drew Ali addressed our ideal. not our person.
Right.
If I can teach you to think, you can save yourself. So, brother, with that, come on in, brother. And let's do one question at a time, my brother.
Islam, Morris. Okay, I want to go with the thought and the mindset of the prophet on this. I want to ask my question. Did the prophet state to the Moorish Americans that he would make us better citizens? And the other part to that question is that the prophet also states that being born in America does not make us American citizens. Islam.
Okay, did y'all understand the question? There's two questions.
Yep.
All right. Anybody can grab and address that. Anybody.
Okay. Go ahead, bro.
Go ahead, brother Ali.
I was going to say, in the Moorish Leader's Historical Message to America, what he says is the object of our organization, because we have to remember that the organization was established first as a civic organization. Civics is the branch of political science that deals with the rights and responsibilities of citizenship. So his message was very much centered around the issue of citizenship and how to keep our people away from the Jim Crowism and segregation, and as he says in the divine warning by the prophet for the nations, all of those things that brings harm to human beings on earth, segregation and all of that other stuff. So when you go into his piece, the Moorish Leader's Historical Message to America, where he's talking about the aims, objects, rules, and regulations of the Moorish Science temples, is the object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. That is what it said. So now, in terms of being born here, and what's the other, the other piece? I think that's from one of the oral statements. Being born here doesn't make you a citizen. Repeat that one.
Yes, and the question was asked, did the prophet not say that simply being born here does not make you an American citizen? Just because you're born in America does not make you an American citizen.
Well, that's a fact. First of all,
Right.
you have, like think about it like this. Think about it like this. There's a couple of ways to look at that statement. You can look at it from to see, the immediate point of that is that there are people who are born here that have a political tie to another nation. So in other words, if the United States operates off the principles of jus soli and jus sanguinis in terms of person, a citizen outside of the issue of naturalization, because naturalization is not dealing with birth. If we're going to deal with birthright citizenship, then we have to deal with the issues of jus soli and jus sanguinis, which the United States operates on both principles. So if you have a diplomat, let's say you had a diplomat here from another country whose political allegiance is to another country or another nation, and while here, the wife or whatever gets pregnant, has a child and gives birth, a citizen of the United States, just because they was born here, that child has a political allegiance by way of their parents' political allegiance to their mother country. So that's one way of looking at it. Looking at it is, if you are the type of person who preaches the message of the Dred Scott case because of the opinion of a dead case that has already been settled by the states in terms of their amendments that they added to the Constitution, 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. But if you are the type of person that want to cling to a dead issue where somebody said that you have no rights that a citizen is bound to respect, and you do the things that the prophet is mentioning when he talks about political slavery, when he says that anytime a man or woman, and I stress that word again, anytime a man or woman fails to cast their sacred ballot at the polls, they cut themselves off from all rights of an American citizen. So if you're going to take that position, if that's the position you're going to take, if that's the position that you're going to promote to other people to try to get them to take those kinds of positions, and which is going to do nothing but breed inactivity. When the man clearly said, take your places in the affairs of your nation, if you're going to breed some kind of opposite idea, and that's going to breed nothing but inactivity and complacency, then yes, being born here does not necessarily make you a citizen, because if you're going to cut off the one connecting medium, as he called it, of a citizen to his nation, if you're going to cut that off, then from that perspective also, you're not a citizen, not in the true sense of the word.
My brother J Bay, did that make sense to you?
It makes great sense, and I just want to kind of build on to what the brother stated. And when the Moor speaks, and when many of my brothers from Ali Moore, first of all, I listen more. These brothers are scholars; they do great research, and most of what they're presenting can be backed up and verified. On this particular issue, though, I want to go away from my thoughts. I want to go with the thought of the prophet and the direction of the prophet. There's many statements where the prophet outlines clearly what was taking place in this country, what had to do with the North and the South. And if we follow the steps of the prophet, he makes it very clear when dealing with these things. The Moor hit it on the knob. He said, we don't take the position of the Dred Scott case, because that's clearly dealing with black. It's dealing with somebody in a dead status. The prophet went through the South. He said most of the conditions in the South was because of our own people. So we know by clinging to these ideas and things that are not lawful and have nothing to do with Moorish Americans, we cut ourselves off. We know that there was Moorish Americans before that North and South situation even took place. So when we talk about the different levels of citizenship, the prophet is trying to make it clear that there's different levels to that citizenship. Not everybody at the time had constitutional rights.
No. Let me.
One second, bring me on there. So, brother, real quick, J Bay. So your position is that, as we was talking about, the Dred Scott decision puts all of us into the vacuum of non-citizenship. Is that what you're saying?
No. And I want to make sure I'm clear, because I'm right there with my brothers. The only thing I have not heard is the brothers come out and unequivocally state that the 14th Amendment is not needed for Moorish Americans.
Because
let's deal with that, Mo.
Okay. Bring me on there. We'll touch on that, my brother.
It's fine.
Well, Islam, brother. You know, first part, you know, you kind of like put that in there. I just can't remember how you worded it, but in a way, it was kind of like a reversal you were saying, and you kind of like put it in there, but it was kind of like a twist to it, and it really just didn't sit right with me. The way you said it, and what we are talking about is the Moors who do right. And quote the Dred Scott decision, to try to prove Noble Drew Ali's case. We are telling Moors not to use the Dred Scott decision to prove Noble Drew Ali case. We are saying for individuals to use the historical facts that were put in the dissenting opinion in regards to the 14th Amendment. I'll just get simple with it. The reason why Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and I'm trying to turn to the article, so please forgive me, brother.
Okay.
Why Prophet Noble Drew Ali basically said that the 14th Amendment was not needed for our citizens, because
14th and 15th. Let's
14th and 15th Amendment.
That's right. Because everybody leaves out the 15th, bro. They always leave the 15th out, but that changes the context of what's being said. Let's go with what he actually stated. The 14th.
Ali, you gotta let me finish, brother, man. You gotta let me finish. Because I'm gonna read it more. I got you covered. I
love that.
The holy prophet said this: through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. It says the 14th and the 15th Amendments brought the North and the South in unit, placing the Southerners who were at that time without power with the constitutional body of power. Let's just deal with that part of it because basically what we know is that is the Civil War. Those people seceded from the federal government, or what we know as the Union. By doing that, they lost the war called the Confederate States of America, was for all intents and purposes obliterated, demolished, abolished, and defunct. For those people, if you will, had no representation in which they live, because we moving into the Reconstruction period after the war. So after those people lost that war, was not to leave them stateless, and was to bring those Southerners back into the constitutional fold. And the reason why, I'm getting to your answer, but the reason why Prophet Noble Drew Ali, at that time, in 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced since 1774, this is really in your answer. In your question. Declare all men free and equal. And if all men are declared free, declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people. And see, the key word, and Ali Bey could touch on this, is the salvation, of our people and citizens. So basically, a lot of Moors try to say that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, and more particularly the 14th and 15th Amendment, is not law. But that's not what the Prophet is saying. Because listen to this: if the 14th Amendment, and don't beat me up, Ali, I said 15th Amendment, but those two amendments, if it was able to bring back into unit, if you will, that means that these said amendments are law, because it would not be able to do that if it wasn't law. The reason why that it wasn't needed for the application of our people is because we know we had different classes of individuals in that regard that were bond and free. And basically, once that 13th Amendment passed, that ended chattel slavery. And we don't want to get into the thing where they say, oh, a lot of brothers say it didn't free them, it just made a whole nother slavery. That's foolishness. Because if that was the case, many of us would still be walking around in chains. So it actually abolished chattel slavery. Now, with that being said, Drew Ali was making reference to is that the Bill of Rights and all of the other applicable laws of the Constitution of the United States was applicable to all the citizens. And see, these things were already guaranteed to citizens of the United States of America. The 14th and the 15th Amendment didn't give these things. It made clarification of the things, because you were basically dealing with the new situation where all men were made free and equal, or were supposed to be made free and equal by the abolishing of chattel slavery. So all of those backwards applicable laws from the 12th Amendment on applied to everybody like it was supposed to be in the beginning. So that's why the Prophet was saying that there is no need for it. All those other applicable laws before that, but it was not saying that it wasn't law. It clarified certain positions that had to be taken in regard to securing the rights of these Southerners who was outside of the constitutional fold. Because see, Asiatics, if you will, who were being freed, never took part in the insurrection. I was saying something, Islam. I missed it.
You good, brother?
So basically, we didn't take place in that insurrection, and I'm gonna show a slide in a minute with the proofs and the evidence that we didn't take part in that insurrection. So that was all about them, if you will.
You get it, brother? Anything else?
One more thing. Are any of the brothers online familiar with a case called Plessy versus Ferguson, or 40 cal, or
Islam? I'm basically, for the most part, familiar with Plessy versus Ferguson, since the case took place not too far from where I'm at right now.
Okay, what about 40 cal?
I'm not familiar with that, brother, man.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna leave that up there for the brothers for reference. And everything more. I can't say that there's a huge disagreement more, but I just want to make sure that we always moving with the guidance of the prophet. And the prophet told us that a lot of things is being set up by the European. We need to be conscious of. We have to be conscious of that.
Where the prophet said that at, brother, man?
Yeah, let me outline that, because there are oral statements. There's other statements by the prophet where he talks about the flag being switched. So I think the prophet made it clear on where we were and the agenda.
My brother J Bay, hold up, brother. You saying a lot of stuff without verification. Can you give us the reference where the prophet said the flag was switched?
Peace and love, Morris.
See, brother, we can't throw stuff out there. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, fact or fiction. But if we say something, we gotta tell our people where we can find it at. We just can't throw stuff out there no more.
I agree. And the more went into the oral statement, he cited the source. So what I'll do is I'll go back through the oral statements and I'll get the source. But the prophet did, it was told to me by my body as well that the prophet came actually this past October, put the flags on two young individuals and said he does declare us a nation. I think that was October 17th, if I'm not mistaken. So these come out of the Emiliel body where we had these certain things that were taught to us.
Oh yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. He rapped one child in America. That was a recorded. I mean, see, in this day, in this age where people can take oral statements, twist them, and mix, they say it's reportedly said that the prophet rapped. That's pretty much. I think that's pretty much a sound statement that the prophet rapped. I think is not mistaken. The little boy in the American flag and the little sister in the Moorish flag, or vice versa. And I now declare you a nation. So that's a pretty much sound statement. I understand that one, but what?
I guess the other one comes from the picture with the prophet where you see the flag in reverse, which we all know may mean distress or anything. So the prophet was always clear about where he was, Morris. So in navigating in Rome, let's always be conscious that where we're at, because the prophet was a mastermind. He did a lot of great things for a lot of reasons, and he said he built this nation on the back of snakes and so on.
Yeah, I understand that, brother. But
using those tools, Morris, we got to be conscious with who we're
brother,
dealing
we
with.
have to be conscious.
Some of these laws that we're talking about, legal is subject to change. Right now, in the state of Texas, where I'm at, more, the governor has gone to the public. He went to the media and said they're not abiding by the 14th Amendment. They're not abiding by the Constitution. They're going to make their own laws. That's the governor of Texas, Morris. So we need to be clear when we're telling people these things. This is why nationality has to be at the forefront more, because what they're doing in Texas and Florida with these things, and we're trying to make something present itself to be lawful when it's really just legal. And these things
but brother, really. Pause for 1 second. Brother, listen to what I'm saying. This is the problem that we have. We try to deep interpret every single thing, lawful and legal, a body and person. And, brother, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said Islam is a simple faith. Man, we be complicating a lot of stuff, brother.
That's not complicated, more. That is very clear. More, the state of New York outlines a person right now as someone in bankrupt status. That is the law of the state of New York.
But in context of Moorish science, is this what the prophet means?
What did he say?
In New York.
Nothing where anybody has shown me that the prophet has referred to us as a non-human entity, where the prophet has said that we are a corporation, a dead status, or any of those things and so forth.
Oh man, see, here we go.
Look. Let me say something real quick, Sheikh Harker Bey. In that regard, with all due respect to the brother, see, this is how this stuff starts off.
Yeah, it starts off slipping in with a good question, and then he go talking about law don't mean legal. Come on, brother.
It slips in, you know, and that's why I say I made the statement, and this is no disrespect to Brother JB. This is a general statement, and I say that, you know, I kind of take out of a statement that Farrakhan made about gutter religion. I say, you know, Moors use the name of the prophet to shield their gutter religion. Well, what is their gutter religion? Their gutter religion is pseudo law. So, you know, the brother, they come on and they use the prophet to shield that. They say, oh, well, we want to be with the prophet. We got to keep what the prophet saying, you know, and we just want to be along with the prophet because they know old Moors talk. So what they do is they take these things and then they begin to shield these sovereign citizen ideologies, and they say, oh, that's good that you talking about the sovereign citizens. When they hold the same ideals, they just don't call them sovereign citizens no more. But they take the same legal arguments, if that will, and they do that in that regard. So no disrespect to you, brother JB, but more I was listening to you, and I mean I seen what was going on.
Right, and so he brings up the whole thing of person, right? They want to try to play a certain type of game with the word person, as if the word person primarily means a corporation. That's not what the word primarily means. The word person primarily refers to a human being, which is referring to a man, a woman, or child, and sometimes a fetus, depending on the situation. So that's the primary meaning of the word person. Now, there's another meaning to the word person when you start talking about an artificial person. No, when you're talking about an artificial person, you're talking about a corporation. But again, when you're dealing with the laws enacted by Congress or the states, if it's going to be a law that pertains to an artificial person, also called a corporation, it's going to be specific and letting you know that that's what it's talking about. It's going to let you know that it's talking about a corporation.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, they go with the primary meaning, and then also you have to deal with the word as it is being used within context of the sentence structure, the syntax of the sentence, the paragraph that is being used, and the type of law that is being used or is being applied at the particular point in time. You can't just take the word person and automatically assume that anytime you hear the word person that is talking about a corporation. That's asinine.
Right.
That is a sovereign citizen pseudo legal tactic. Go ahead, brother.
Hey, hold on one second. Hold on one second. Put me out here. Hold on one second. Hey, my brother, I wish we could go on long, but this gonna go on forever. It's almost 11 o'clock. We're gonna wrap it up. Peace and love, my brother. I will definitely have you on again, but call earlier. I gave you the number earlier, brother. We could have went in. You understand what I'm saying?
Islam, more. Let me try to screen share this demo real quick.
All right, while you trying to
yeah, let me screen share something real quick.
Let me say this. This is one of the things I try to not to get myself involved in. One of the things I try not to get myself involved in is the back and forth about the wordplay. We get all caught up in the back and forth about the wordplay. Person don't mean a human being. Law don't mean legal. Man, all we got to do is look at context. See, this is the problem. Read what you're saying and show where the person don't mean a human being. Don't just throw it out there that person don't mean human being, because you're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands, possibly millions of documents, legal documents that says person in them. And you're going to tell me that every single document doesn't mean a human being. Because that's what you say when you just throw it out there. Person don't mean human being. Because in New York, come on, man. That doesn't even make sense. Or legal don't mean lawful. In which document are you referring to? See, you could get away with that one time before. But today's world, you're going to have to show which document are you talking about. Before we go, my brother is going to show something. You can inbox me what document where law doesn't mean legal. What document where person don't mean a human being? And then we
Right.
can address it. We're talking about context, people. Context. My brother Grimiano got something for you. Come on, my brother.
Islam, can you see that screen more?
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. And this was going back into something that I was going in. I don't know if the audience can see this, but I'll try to blow this particular demonstration up. A portrait called the 15th Amendment. This was basically after the war. If you could see, as you can see, I'm trying to blow it up. See if I could go from just be patient with me more. I'm not the most proficient in this demonstration. This screen share demo. But if you could see, my mouse moving, I'm not sure. You can see in the center of this photograph.
Yep.
You see how those people are dressed?
Hey, bro, give me out there. They say, can you zoom it in? Can you zoom it in or stretch it out?
All right, I'm gonna try to stretch the demo out. And if anybody can't see it, just hit me up on Facebook, and I'll be glad to share it with you. I wrote an article in this regard as a Facebook note.
Yeah, that's looking good. That's looking good.
Good, great. So,
yeah,
see, Brother Taharka, those Moors in the middle are coming back from the Civil War, and you see how they dress. They're dressed in Moorish garb. Some of them have on fezzes, some of them have on turbans.
And somebody say, hit the bottom right, you can stretch it a little more.
What button?
You can enlarge it from the bottom right. From the plus.
Oh, okay, beautiful. Right.
Man, we got some. Man, let me tell you this, man. I appreciate our audience, man. See, this is called community. This is what this called community. We working this thing together. We gonna teach together. Come on, brother. What they got
on? Whoever did that, whoever said that, I give them great thanks. I greatly appreciate that. As you can see, look at if you take a real good close look how these people are dressed. Some of them have fezzes on, some of them have turbans on, and they have Moorish garb. Brothers on the back on the horses with sashes on. What do adepts wear in the Moorish Science Temple of America? Sashes, right?
That's right.
So I just wanted to point this demonstration out, and then of course, I'll talk about this real quickly. I'm not gonna go into detail, but this is symbolic for society on here. You have the brothers with the aprons and sad collars and aprons on, at the out of the photograph. I'm just showing how Moors was intricately demonstration called the United States of America and our involvement in the Civil War to free this demonstration. We're not talking about Negroes, we're talking about Moors. Y'all see how they was dressed, and of course, you have Lincoln and the other European politicians on the left, and then at the top, all over to the right, you have Lincoln. The brother to the left with the military uniform is Martin R. Delaney, if I'm not mistaken. And look, see, can y'all see my mouse moving? Islam?
Yep, I see it.
Okay, I want to point to something, this picture. To the right of this picture. Y'all see these Asiatics fighting the Civil War, making a forward charge? Those brothers with those backpacks on, with the drums and the fezzes on. Can y'all see that, audience?
I see it, brother.
I see it.
This is what we dealing with, more. We was intricately involved in this demonstration, and this is a picture that I had in my how did brother say, a Maxim Armory? picture right here is a very, very, very telling picture. I'm gonna do like my brother say. I'm gonna blow it up. I've been sitting on this for a few years. Y'all see this Asiatic sitting in the chair? This is after, because see, the Europeans after the Civil War, they turned the reins of government back over to the Asiatics, and Asiatic sitting there in the chair, and all of the Europeans are paying attention to him, surrounding him, and he got the document in his hands. And then to the left, we have this wicked figure. Read. I'm going to scroll down, and I'm going to read what's at the bottom, and I'm going to blow it up so there won't be any doubt. Whoops, I went too far. All right, I'm going to try to blow it up so it won't be any doubt. If you have any doubt, just hit me up, and I'll get it to him. Here it says time work wonders. So they have Jeff Davis, this sinister looking figure on the left is a representation of Jefferson Davis, who was the president of the Confederacy. And notice the words back there. The words say, "For that I do not suspect the lusty Moor hath leaped into my seat. The thought whereof doth like a poisonous mineral gnaw my inwards." I'm saying? So they're depicting the confederacies, if you will, knowing at the fact that the government is being turned over to the Moors. Enough on that. Y'all got the picture on that. Now here is a clearer picture of what I was talking about before. This is also a picture entitled the 15th Amendment. I'll blow it up. If y'all can see in the center on the right-hand side, those brothers with those red pantaloons, and they have on red what? Fezzes. Ain't no Arabs. These Asiatic sable-skinned, olive-skinned Moors. Can y'all see that?
Brother, you got these brothers.
Y'all see that? And then you got the brothers over here with sashes and aprons over here on the left. And what's peculiar, picture.
What year was that, my brother? Somebody say, what year was that?
What was this picture made?
Yes.
See, I'm gonna have to blow it up.
This brother killing me too, because he said what year was prove that's an Asiatic. When you can clearly see, brother. Oh, come on, brother. Look at come on.
Yeah, more they brown skin. Let me blow it up a little bit more.
It's clear.
More. I mean, these are Moors fighting for their freedom. As you see, if you look right here, these Moors have some Confederate soldiers prisoner. I mean, I don't know what to say to that, brother. And at the bottom of the picture, they basically give you a key guide telling you what everything is. And you see Asiatics going to school, Asiatics getting married, Asiatics at the helm of the government. I mean, they show you this in the picture right here at the bottom. So, it is what it is. Then you have your volume of sacred law, so on and so forth. So that's being, I mean, it is what it is. They're Asiatics. This is a picture about the Civil War. Why wouldn't it be Asiatics? So, I mean, that's all I wanted to drop more. And I wrote an article on Facebook on my notes. If anybody want to get it, hit me up at Zachary Grimion L. And I wrote a actual article in regards to these pictures that I just showed you all. So, and I'm gonna say this last thing more, and then in this regard, why? And they'll tell you that Crispus Attucks was the first Asiatic to die in the American Revolution. Why? Because that man had a vested interest in what was going on over here. Everybody want to talk about Aboriginal Indigenous, but then they don't want to acknowledge the Aboriginal Indigenous people who was busting shots at the British government for the formation of the freedoms of America. So with that, I say Islam, boy.
Islam, brother. brother. Anything, anybody want to say anything in closing? Because we've been at it, brother. We've been at it, man. I'm loving the audience, man. I appreciate y'all for staying with us. And I was hoping that somebody called in. I know we're gonna have some Monday night quarterbacks. They're gonna come in, they're gonna say this, they're gonna say that in the third. But if you got something you want to say, you can hit me up at taharkabay@yahoo.com. I got the old email. Taharkabay, I gotta do a website. Taharkabay.com. I got taharkabay@yahoo.com. That's what I'm saying.
That's funny. Might well with the AOL, man.
Yeah. I got Yahoo. Hey, I got See, I don't want to tell you my other one because then y'all gonna flood me with nonsense. So that's my junky one. Y'all can do my junky.
But you got a MSN. That's what it is, ain't it?
Hey.
No, you probably got the Hotmail. You probably got Hotmail.
Yeah,
Man.
I'm putting my phone bill and this dial-up go down. I'm gonna need some donations. That's you got mail. You know what I'm talking about? Remember that? Anyway,
yeah, man.
Ali Bay, what's anything you want to say in closing, my brother? Because this is what y'all did.
Yes.
Hold on. Oh.
Funny.
Y'all dropped bombs today, bro. Y'all dropped bombs, man. And I was hoping somebody throw some spitballs at us. No, I didn't even throw no spitballs. You know,
I'm gonna say this in closing, just to answer the main question that was posed on the flyer for the show. Dred Scott decision: slave or citizen? We're citizens. We're not slaves. Does this affect you in 2016? No, that decision does not affect us in 2016.
Excellent.
It only affects those people who believe that it affects them. But the bottom line is, I'm going to say it one more time. The Dred Scott decision was overturned by the 13th and the 14th Amendments to the Constitution. This can be found in the primary documents in American history on www.loc.gov. And you can look up the Dred Scott case there, and it'll tell you right there in the Library of Congress website. In the primary documents that they have there, that the Dred Scott decision was in fact overturned by the 13th and 14th Amendments. Not just the 14th, which most people erroneously believe, but the 13th and the 14th Amendments. And also what I would like to say is that there's an article, I mentioned it earlier, but just in case people missed it, there's an article in a online publication called Religion and Politics. And this particular article is called Thomas Jefferson's Quran, QUR''AN by Julianne Hammer. This was published April 9th, 2014. Get that article and read that article because it's very important as it pertains to the founding fathers, and in particular Thomas Jefferson, and what he felt in terms of who they would allow or who they saw as citizens of the United States during the early founding of the country called the United States. So get that piece. Again, it's called Thomas Jefferson's Quran, an online publication called Religion and Politics, published by Julianne Hammer, April 9th, 2014. Very good piece. So no, the Dred Scott case doesn't apply to us. It doesn't apply to so-called black people. It doesn't apply to so-called Negroes. It doesn't apply to anybody. It's a dead issue that has been resolved back in the 1800s, and it needs to be thrown into a tomb and buried along with the Confederate flag.
Listen, man.
Basically, more it's the end. It's the end of Moorish myths, you know. And when we talked about some of these things about what is a Moorish American, you know, it really inspired me to talk about this on my personal page, you know. And I think that when we a lot of these myths that Moors come, I think it makes Moorish science stronger, you know. Like you say, Islam is a simple faith.
And my thing is this, and with that, I'll close it out with this. Islam is a very simple faith. And I say that once things begin to become complicated, man didn't put his little dirty hand in it. That's just what it is. if you follow any religious persuasion, and the moment that it becomes difficult, whether to understand or even difficult to even follow, man has put his hand in it. God, Allah, whomever you choose to call God, by whichever name you choose to call God, God is as natural as breathing, if one said that way. And to follow and do the will of God can be easy as breathing once you know the difference. We make it hard ourselves because we don't want to accept that it's the simple thing. Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, Islam is a simple faith. It's a simple faith. It requires man, and I'm going to paraphrase, it requires man to know his duty to his fellow man and basically all things in creation. And a love for Allah. Islam is very simple. A love for God. His duty to God, his duty to his fellow man, and all things in creation. Very simple. When we start getting into this law don't mean legal, person don't mean human, come on, man, we done complicated this thing. And if you're so right about this, and this, I say this to my brothers that subscribe to that type of ideal. If you're so right about this, how much change, effective change, have you made with that in your community? If it's so correct and so accurate, show me the effective change that you did in your community so we can bring it to our community and we can fix our community. But other than that, you're only YouTubing, Facebooking, Twitter, IGing. But you're not doing more science, because more science is the practical application of knowledge and trying to bring it into wisdom, whereas though we are living it every day. So if you can show me how you do it in your community to make yourself better, your community better, how many people agree with you with that thought? How many people riding out with you? How many people are benefiting from people is not a human being? How many people is benefiting from law is not legal? How many people is going to rally around that so we can liberate ourselves? I'm not talking about 5 or 10.
Nobody.
Our laws. I'm not talking about that.
In order for something to be legal, and this is really a simple concept, in order for something to be legal, there has to be supported by some underlying law. So a thing can't be legal unless there's a law that supports it. That's all there is.
Absolutely.
So what he tried to do was make a false argument, man, and that's, again, I'm used to him doing that. You know what I'm saying? Because, you know, he comes with all of this stuff on Facebook. I know exactly who that was. That was Jael. But the bottom line, yeah, that was Jael. But the bottom line is, man, he does that same thing all the time, man, and it gets beat up all the time. In order for something to be legal, it has to be supported by an underlying law. Period. Point blank. That's it.
Who else? No more. I really hate to do this more, but you know, there was a thing. You know how dangerous and misleading this stuff is. You know, there was a video that came out, and we talked about it the other day, where this particular, you know, a particular brother, I'm not gonna say his name, was talking about it. We talked about it earlier, Ali Bey, but you know, this particular brother saw, you know, they taught this poor sister, you know, this sovereign citizen garbage, and the sister was, you know, getting arrested by the police. Not only was she getting arrested by the police, but the sister was getting arrested by the police, and she was pregnant.
Right.
The individual was following her around, right? Talking about, oh man, we gonna set it on fire. Wait till we get to the courts. I'm gonna file this and this, that, and the other, and actually live stream that demonstration. Have you and put it on Facebook like he was gonna do something extraordinarily for this poor sister that they taught this madness to, who had child within her. Then you know, you never seen that. You never seen he sat there, he bragged about what he was gonna do for, how he was gonna handle his business in the court for the sister. Only on top of that, not do nothing, but he took the original video down and never followed up on it again.
That's a fact. He said he was going to, but you know, I was waiting because I was watching the live stream too, and I seen, you know, what was going on. I was listening very attentively to what was being said. Brother said he was going to make sure that that cop is not a cop no more, and you know what I'm saying. Was going through the whole rigmarole about, you know what, we're not blacks and African Americans, we Moorish Americans, you know, as if that was supposed to be some sort of a shield from arrest. You know, I don't know why Moors think that claiming to be Moorish American is some sort of a shield from arrest and prosecution when it ain't. It's never been proven to be that. So I don't know why they still running around with that, but that's the way he was acting. He was telling the sister, don't worry, we're going to come down and we're going to get you right out. Because, you know, at a certain point, she started resisting, trying to get in the car. I think they were trying to put her, you know, in the police car, whatever, take her down to the station or what have you. And she was trying to resist and whatever. They was trying to tell her, nah, don't resist. Don't worry. You're going to be out in no time. And we're going to make sure that this brother, because it was a brother that was, I think it was a brother that was arresting her. And, you know, so they was like, yeah, he ain't really a brother and blah, blah, blah. And we're going to make sure he's not a cop and so forth. So I'm waiting to see. Because he was saying on the video that he was going, you know, he's going to show us step by step how Moors handle things, and this is how real Moors is going. Then, you know, real Moors are active, and, you know, so I'm waiting to see, you know, what it was going to be. You know, we'll see, man.
I want to say this. I want to say this before we roll out, brother. I got to go up top. But look, I want to say this. I want y'all to do me a favor. Everybody in the chat. If y'all on Facebook, on IG, whenever y'all watch these videos and you get something out of it, please try to share it to 2 people. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to clean up this Moorish world. And we're trying to clean up the Moorish world as it relates to the ideal that is in conflict with the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's teaching. And that's just what we're going to do, like it or not. Like it or not. Prophet Noble Drew Ali was a type of brother that he was very simple in his approach to uplifting fallen humanity. Very simple in his approach. What he did was he went to the streets of Chicago. They started businesses. They engaged the local politics. They got their money right. They got their political power right. They was exclusive to themselves, but they also were inclusive of society, which means they was in society and they filtered in society, but also they was in the world, but not of the world, if you get what I'm saying. We played both sides. They did commerce to whether you was a Moor or not. They gave jobs to people whether they were Moors or not, whether they proclaimed to be Moorish or not. They were friends with people who continue to subscribe and call themselves black and call themselves whatever they call themselves, because we are the children of one Father, provided for by his care. And the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, he epitomized that. He held that high. So when you read the history of them, see, a lot of people try to talk about Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and they don't even know the steps that Prophet Noble Drew Ali took. And when I say the steps that Prophet Noble Drew Ali took, I'm talking about the literal walking down the road sidewalk of South Side of Chicago. They don't know the business moves he took. They don't know about the brother who wrote insurances. They don't know about the grocery stores. They don't know about the ice stores. They don't know about the vehicles. Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the vehicles was made in the 20s. They don't know about the chauffeurs. They don't know about the newspaper articles where they held them up as a pop star. And what I mean pop star, just a popular person. They don't know about the invites to the political gatherings, to the political balls. See, these people don't know that Prophet Noble Drew Ali. The only Prophet Noble Drew Ali know is the Prophet Noble Drew Ali that somebody made up in some prison walls, or some prophet Noble Drew Ali, that somebody that was excommunicated themselves out of the prophets movement, and then they created their own thing. But they don't know the prophet Noble Drew Ali, because if they did know the prophet Noble Drew Ali, they would be imitating the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and they'd be successful. A lot of these people are broke. A lot of these people are on their mama couch. A lot of these people are living in poverty. Prophet Noble Drew Ali gives you a teaching that gets you out of poverty. Like me, I come from poverty, absolutely. But you can ask me where I'm at now. I'm trying to tell you, Prophet Noble Drew Ali is none of this stuff that they're making up. Half of these people can't even pay their cell phone bill every week and talk about how master Moorish they are. And I'm not saying that to put anybody down. What I'm saying is, if we focus on the simple things, maybe we can get to the greater things.
That's right, Moore. Come on with it, doctor.
Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and everything else will be added unto you. And that means everything. But if you have been demonstrating more signs for over 5 to 10, 15 years, and you haven't received nothing back, you haven't been demonstrating more signs. And that's just what it is. That's just what it is. And with that, I got to get out of here, family. I got to get out of here, family. I'm going to see y'all soon. We've been on here for a long time. I'm going to see y'all soon. Grim, I appreciate you, my brother. Brother Ali Bey, I appreciate you. Then we're going to talk about this tomorrow on the phone, and we're going to burn each other's ears up, and we're going to say, man, it was a good show.
Yep, Islam.
So, praise the Lord. I'm glad we covered everything. Everything. So we literally buried that. So I'm going to tell you that when somebody come on your page, Grim, and because we're going to have to address this every few months, somebody come on your page, Ali, will come on my page, I'm going to refer them to the video, Dred Scott Decision, 1857. Are you still a slave in 2016? And you can do the same thing. Refer them to that. But you know how we are. We want that microwave freedom. Man, that video 2.5 hours long. We want microwave freedom. We want pop it in and we free in a few minutes. It don't work like that, family. But with that, I talk to y'all next time around on Sunday. Moorish World TV. I got you. That's I got a slogan. Let me hit the ball. Let's check it out. Check it out. Moorish World TV. I got you. Peace and love, family.
That's tight, Moore. Peace and love.
Peace, man. Brother. I got to chill. I've been working overtime. Man, the Moore's been doing some things this weekend. I catch everybody up on it on the other side. I might do a special show this week on specifically how my week went. With that, I'm up out. Peace and love.